Hello, Angela.
Yeah.
Hey, Angela, this is Brandon Clark. I was calling about your property in Missouri. Did you end up selling that one?
No, I have not got the right offer yet.
Oh, yeah. Have you changed your price, your asking price?
Nope.
How much were you still looking to get?
I'm looking to get at least 340 out of it.
Okay. I think last time we checked, I feel like at that price, it might be an on-market price with an agent. Have you reached out to an agent yet?
No, but if I do, my daughter is an agent.
Okay. Well, I'll just follow up with you
Yeah.
and hopefully you get your house sold. But yeah, I think at that price, it's not really an investor price because I need to, put money in the property and make money. And houses in that area are going for around like 300.
She's done comps on it for me, and there's houses going for a lot higher than that around here too. I don't know that if you're seeing them all, but yeah, my neighbor's even selling his down there, and he has 103 acres. So I'm sure his is going to go for a lot higher than what even though my house is nicer and bigger and new. He's got a modular they took down there, but that 103 acres, that's going to go for, he's going to get a lot of money out of it.
No, yeah.
Anyways.
But yeah, maybe, like you said, reach out to your family member that could possibly list it. I think that might be the best option.
Oh, yeah. I'll have to reach out to her sitting watching her daughter play volleyball the other night. She asked me how long it's going to take before I say yes and we'll let her list it.
That makes sense. Yeah. Are you in a rush to sell? Like, do you need to get out of the property right away, or you have some time?
I have time. It's just hard sitting here because my husband passed away here and we built the house, and it's just been a hard almost 2 years.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. But yeah, I just don't think I could help you, unfortunately. But I'll just keep checking in, and hopefully you get someone maybe local in the area that wants to buy your house at your price. But I wish you luck, and I'll just follow up in about a month, and maybe you ended up listing it or something.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Angela. Have a great day.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye. So that was just a follow-up call. What I asked was like, how fast do you need to sell it? There was a rush, and yeah, I would dig deeper into it, but I didn't sense motivation. I just move on.
Yeah. I might ask like time, what is your ideal timeline? Like what happens if you don't sell it in that time frame? Like, sometimes you ask that type of question and it pulls out like, okay, there's a problem they're not telling you about, and the deadline is more important.
That makes sense. Just
go
one more.
When
yeah. See here. So that how many deals right now are you working, Chris, in your pipeline? Like that's like taking your attention.
Hello, this is Mark. Sorry I've missed your phone call, but please leave a message and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. God bless and have a good day.
At the tone, please record your message. When you've finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options. To leave a callback number, press 5.
Hey, Mark, it's Chris. We were texting about your property on Orchard Drive. Give me a call back when you get a chance. Got some time to chat today. My number, 619-525-7132. 619-525-7132. Hope you're having a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Yeah, right now, dude, we've got 10, 18... 23 deals that we're working actively right now under contract. 5 assigned. Yeah, so.
Chris, you're mostly doing cold calling?
So we have cold call. So these are all warm leads that I'll be calling. But it's we have cold callers, we have text messaging, and we do some PPC as well.
PPC.
Yep.
Nice.
What about you guys?
Cold calling, texting. But I think I'm gonna be switching over to PPL.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm 100% PPL.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done some PPL with like Lead Zolo. It was all right. I wasn't really digging it too much.
Yeah, their prices went up too much. So we switched to Speed to Lead and Property Leads.
How much you paying for them?
Speed to Lead, they dialed me in. I was doing the coupon club, getting $9 leads just to practice closing, right? A lot of those leads are recycled, which is fine, whatever, right? But then I got the exclusive leads nationwide. I got them down to $100. I got some good filters on them as far as like parameters, like wanting to sell them, blah, blah, blah. And I had to just pick 250 counties. So I picked 250 of like the top counties in the top areas that I wanted to be. And that was able to drop down to 100. So far, our small sample size, we got like 2 contracts sent, 1 signed, 2 refunds, and like 2 follow-ups. So like out of that small sample size, it's pretty good,
Yeah, that's not bad.
Let's see.
Nice. Who are you using for PPC campaigns? That's a trade secret, my friend. It's a trade secret. No, it's we have a partner that manages. So it's basically in-house. It's not like a company that offers PPC. But we might start a company doing it because it's working pretty damn well.
Just don't be like Aaron Bevitz, where it's all his leads are shitty now.
Yeah, dude, we're doing nationwide PPC, which I don't like for our business. I mean, it's good for other people, like, that makes sense for. And like, I think from a business model standpoint, I build out like a PPL business model on it. But I don't know. I feel like the PPL business model is starting to go south pretty rapidly.
I think it just depends on the provider. You got to trust the provider, because once they get bigger, then the quality goes down. So it depends on which way they go. Do they go ethically or do they go for profit?
Yeah,
well, find that one.
I mean, ethics are maintained until they can't cover their expenses, and then that goes right out the window.
Yeah.
Or the business shuts down, and then either way, your leads go right out the window. You know what I mean? So it's one way or the other. It's just out.
And that's kind of why we kind of switched from LeadZilla, because the price were too expensive. The conversion was pretty good on LeadZilla, even though it was nationwide. But with Speed to Lead, like, they're good on their customer service. They're willing to work with you. So, Speed to Lead, I'm definitely happy with out of the PPL providers.
Nice.
Call this buyer.
What are you having most success with, Chris?
As far as like the lead sources or the exit strategy or what?
Yeah, lead sources.
Let's see. I'll pull my report right now for the year. So for the year, cold calling for sure.
Is that in the most deals or the most gross profit?
Both. The thing is, we generate more leads. Like, that's our primary, I'd say, out of all of our lead sources, cold calling is our primary.
Yeah.
So on the year, we've generated 1,000 cold call leads. Our text leads, we've done about 150 total generated this year. And then we probably got about 1,000 PPC leads, but again, they came in so fast, and they're nationwide. There's a lot of like crappy markets. So we only started the PPC like 4 months ago,
Got it.
but right now I've got a $180,000 deal like that is pending right now.
Let's go.
Yeah, buddy. That one was super creative. So we took it down, contract for deed, $80,000 cash to the seller, $515 purchase price, closed on it. And we listed it for $750, and we now have a buyer in escrow at $735 right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's solid.
Yeah, bro. So basically 80K cash to close, sub 2 for 12 months, and then basically just listed it. It needed no work whatsoever. It was clean as a whistle.
Oh, damn. That's super creative.
It was the only way to get it done. The guy needed the 80K within like a month because it sounded like a scam. He's like, hey, I've got like $3 million tied up in this crypto thing that I'm doing, but I need 80K to pay the guy who's managing it or I'm going to lose it. And I'm like, well, that sounds like a scam. But if you believe it to be true, I'm not going to stop you. And here's the deal.
Yeah.
So, what exit strategies are you guys all doing? Mainly just cash or
Cash.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm doing cash and I'll buy some.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Buy some back on the market. I have a mobile home on an acre right now. I tore it down. I subdivided the lots, 3 different lots, and I'm putting 3 mobile homes on it right now.
That's
been a headache. I should have just took the 40K assignment, I feel like.
That's what RG says, right? Like,
Yeah, I know. I joined the group too late. I mean, it's fine. I mean, I'll make more money on it, but it's just taking a long time, and that's another 90 grand I would have had in my bank right now.
Yeah.
well,
So
RJ says this.
that I look at when I'm making that decision, do I just wholesale or do I do a different strategy? I take what can I make wholesaling it, divide it by the number of days it's going to take me to wholesale it, and look at what my average daily profit is. And then versus the other strategy, how many days is that going to take and how much money am I going to make and what's my average daily profit? Whatever's higher average daily profit, that's the strategy I go with.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it was my first time. I thought it was going to be a lot easier than what it's actually been.
It always seems like it's going to be a lot easier, and the dollar amount like gets you. You're like, oh, but it's 100,000,
And then it just keeps
Don't go
going,
down the rabbit hole,
getting
right?
less and less and less money.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Like RJ says, like a lot of people get in a wholesale to make some money, than to go buy properties to be a rental guy, then multifamily guy. But it's like you don't have to do that. You could just be a wholesaler. And we own properties. I don't want to be a landlord anymore. We got done with our Philly fix and flip duplex, and I just prayed to God that thing closed escrow, and it did. And like being a wholesaler is fun. And I want to go over Scott's question. PPL is too expensive. It just depends on your ROI. PPC could be expensive. It just depends on how much you're getting back from it, right? So if we're buying 9 leads or whatever, our conversion's 1 to 6 right now for our contracts on these PPLs with speed of lead, just from that small sample size. So it just depends. Yeah, they're expensive, but how many deals can you close? If you can't close deals on the phone, you might be wasting PPL money, maybe more long-term like PPC money, right? That's more follow-ups. But if you could close deals on the phone, you just go straight to the source faster. And it just depends on if you can convert on that money you spend on the PPL, if it's worth it. So for me, it's worth it. I could spend 10, 20K on PPL. I don't mind, just as long as it brings back money.
Yep.
So,
yeah. And that's the other thing too. We just got really granular with all of our marketing metrics and figured out, because we were spread across about 14 different markets, outside of the nationwide PPC. And it was basically, it was good. Like we were doing deals, like for example, Alabama. We've done a bunch of deals in Alabama, but what we figured out was that our average deal was between like $3,000 and $5,000. Like we'd have the occasional $10,000, $15,000 there, but the amount of time, energy, and effort that it took was really high. Whereas like Indianapolis, our average deal is like $17,000. It's one of the, we do more deals there than anywhere else. It was accounting for about 16% of our marketing spend, but about 38 to 40% of our actual gross revenue. So we're like, let's freaking double down on Indy and scrap Alabama, because we know we can move deals there fast. And then we did that with a few other markets and just really got laser focused in. And that's definitely been helping.
And that's cold calling, texting?
That's across all marketing sources.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just, like you look at the area, and what are it's like, it's hard to make a $10,000 spread when properties are $50,000, $60,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's the thing I'm having a hard time about moving to PPL is it seems like there's a bunch of small fees, 5, 10 grand, and it's nationwide. And I'm just like, not.
Well, that's why we're doing the $100 niche counties. But yeah, the nationwide PPL was so rural, so we didn't convert on any of those leads with property leads because they were the nationwide. But I think once you dial in your filters, Alex, I think you'll have a higher conversion.
Mhm.
By the way, if any of you guys need help with novations, like if you got cash wholesale deals that don't work for a wholesale deal and you need help converting it to novation, let me know. Like I can convert that to a novation. We can get it set up, if you need help with creative finance. And we basically take it all the way from start to finish. So we have an in-house PC team. Dispo team will handle vetting the agents, making sure that all the showings get handled, title, escrow, the whole shebang. So you can just keep locking up more deals.
Love it.
Yeah. RJ says
Chris,
focus on cash, but if you do creative, give it to someone that handles it, which it's just Chris,
Chris, how are you
Chris,
handling
what's your last name?
Deal.
DEAL?
Yep. Like
That's
Chris
cool.
closes your deal.
Hey,
That's-
Johnny, it's Brandon Clark again. Did you end up selling that property in Detroit?
Just added you.
Nice.
Facebook.
Oh, perfect. And my IG is right in my name there too. So.
I'm off of Instagram.
What's that?
Been off for like a year and a half.
Oh, nice. Lucky
Did you end
you.
up selling that property?
Hey, Chris, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So how are you underwriting your novations?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. So the process for, the process for cash, right, is you're looking at ARV. With novations, you don't care about ARV because you're selling it to an end buyer. So there's a couple questions that you have to look at. First question is, can it qualify for FHA or VA financing, right?
Okay.
Do you know what needs to happen for the qualify? Okay. So basically it can't be a fixer. Right. So to back up a little bit, when you look at different types of conventional financing, cash is the least restrictive. Conventional is the next least restrictive because the buyer is bringing 10 to 20% down. So the lender, they're mitigating that risk because if the buyer defaults, they have 10 to 20% into the deal. So they'll foreclose on it and have 10 to 20% of equity. Right. With an FHA or VA, you're looking at anywhere from 0% down to 3 to 5% down. So now the risk increases for the lender. So to mitigate that risk, they have certain criteria for the inspection. So it has to pass all of these inspections. So for example, like one of the most basic things is if there's a room in the house that doesn't have flooring and it just has subfloor, it's not going to pass. So you're going to have to put flooring in. So for properties that are,
We can talk after. It's fine.
Yeah, because we sent the agreement over months ago. So, would you want to move forward on that? Yeah.
You sent it to my Gmail, johnnymiles30gmail.com.
Yeah, we sent that over. Is that a good email to send over that agreement?
Okay, well, I'm gonna look it up. It's probably still on my phone.
Okay, I'll send a new one.
No, you ain't got to. It's still on my phone, then.
Okay.
I'll call you in about an hour.
Okay.
I'll tell you.
Sounds like a plan. Talk soon, Johnny.
Huh?
Thanks. Yeah. Sorry, Chris.
No worries. So yeah, so basically you're really looking for properties that are just cosmetic fixers, right? They're livable, but they just need updating, right? Once you find those, then you're looking for comps that are as is, like for like, right? So if you got a grandma house that's clean as a whistle, still has the plastic on the furniture, right? Like you want to find a house that's similar condition to that, and what did it sell for? And ideally something that went pending within 30 days. If you can find stuff 2 weeks,
Right.
great, but like within 30 days, you take that as is value on market, take 10% off that. So like, let's say you
Right.
see comp and it's $200,000, you go times 0.9, right? So it'd be 180. And then minimum target fee you want to make is 30K. So your max allowable offer for a novation on that would be 150.
Okay. I see.
What were those numbers again? Is it you're multiplying it
It's-
times what?
minus 30.
Yeah. So it's as is comps that sold, take 10% off of that, and then minus 30. And that's
Grand.
your MAO for a novation.
So
Okay.
if there's no like comps of recently sold at within the 30 days or 2 weeks, and it's longer than that, how are you adjusting?
So it just, that's something that it becomes a little bit more of an art, and just looking at, okay, how comparable are they? Are they like for like comparable, or are they somewhat comparable? If
Okay.
they're like for like comparable, then I'm looking at, okay, how long did it take them to go pending? Do you have an example?
I guess this one is like we were planning on doing it, but which was really tough to figure out. I can give you the address real quick. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, drop in the private chat.
Yeah.
Chris, it's on the right side.
I think I'm gonna pull up the Ohio one.
I got bounce out here.
Hey, Jason,
See you, Corey.
this is Alex. We spoke the other day about your property.
Yeah, man. What's going on?
Doing good, man. I just wanted to give you a call. I know you wanted to kind of think about it, but I also know you have an auction date for early next month. So just kind of seeing if you gave it any thought.
Man, I'm still weighing my options right now, so I'm kind of, still in limbo a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We got a couple phone calls I got to make. I just got off work, so I'll know more later on this afternoon. You just want me to give you a call back here a little bit?
Yeah, that works. What time you thinking?
That was good, man. Next couple hours.
Okay. If I don't hear from you, I'll give you a call back.
Sounds great, brother. Thank you, man.
All right. Thanks, brother. Bye.
Gotta do the Hulkamania. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, brother.
Okay, so I'm going to go 90 days out.
And you're just doing this on Zillow, right?
Yeah, I'm just doing this on Zillow.
Chris, you able to share your screen?
Do you want me to share the screen, Sharon? I don't want to disclose the address.
No. This is a done deal. Like it's gone, but
Oh, okay. All right, cool.
Yeah,
So-
share your screen. You're good.
it's fine. This one's not that deep.
Share, then I'll highlight. Bring it. I'll make it bigger.
all right. Can you see this?
There you go.
Yep.
All right. So here's the subject property, right? 4 32, 3,300 square feet. So I always want to start basically as comparable as I possibly can, and then I'll work back, right? If I need to go outside of those, then I will, right? So I'll go, in this case, I'd go up to like 4,000 square feet. I'm going to go, no less than 2,000 square feet. I'm going to go 90 days to start. And I'm doing, is it a single family or is it a
It's single
Okay.
family.
So I'll go houses only, and I'll go 4-4, right? So this is the last 90 days. There's a 265, 299. These are relatively comparable.
I
square
sent you the
foot.
pictures like on the private chat.
Oh, okay, perfect. Let's see.
It's a much different house than the one you're looking at right now.
Got it. Okay. So, yeah, so this one's livable for sure. I don't see anything in here that would necessarily DQ it. Is the pool theirs?
The pool is theirs, yeah.
Okay. All right. Got it. Yeah. So this is going to be a difficult one to really comp,
That's right.
especially considering. But let's go back out further, right? Let's go 6 months. Okay. Nothing else. Let's go 12 months. Whew, nothing. But my guess is it's the bed bath and the square footage, right? So
Yeah.
so now what I'll do, I'll relax on the bed bath count. Actually, I can just get rid of it because I also have the square footage figures in here. So now this is going to pull everything in the last 12 months, and I'm going to go high to low. So what's the most comparable house? So this one was built in 98. Let's see here. What the heck is that?
But
This
Chris, is your strategy first to try to lock it up cash because it's simpler than if it doesn't work, then you pivot? Is that kind of like
Yeah, you're always pitching cash, even if you know you're going novation, because you're trying to anchor them low to get their threshold down so that you can still lock it up at a better deal, right? And then you come in, you anchor low, and then you come in like, hey, we have this other program, not many properties qualify for, but I think I might be able to get yours. Like 1 out of 50 properties qualify. It's more time and labor intensive, blah, 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 like all this stuff.
like a Novation King pitch kind of?
Pretty much, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you can, like once you get to a point where you have really good rapport and everything, like you can shorten that pitch. He has a really good pitch and really good system. I basically get most of my deals based on my rapport building. So let's see here. So this I think is probably a really good comp for the property. It's just the bed and bath count. And it's 1,000 square foot smaller, but it's got like the style of house. When was it built? It was built in 83, so it's 10 years older. It's on 2 acres. Subject property is on 1/4 acre. So the problem is, man, this is in a weird area.
Yeah, it is. This one was hard. Like even Brennan, like he sent it to someone else. Like they were struggling with it too. Do you have like an example of one that you've closed already that you could like maybe just show?
Well, here's one other thing, right? So if you can't find sold comps, go to active comps, right? And go to active and we go anytime, and then we look at these. So are any of these comparable? 61 days on market, 49 days on market. Let's just see the condition of this. This is 11 acres, not a comp. So now what we need to do is we need to strip out high acreage, and we need to go, below 2 acres.
That 435 is the property right next to this one, but it's a 2021 build.
Got it. And it's 49 days on market. So they're overpriced. They probably need to be right about 400.
Yeah.
Question, Chris.
Yeah.
Do novations work better in a rural area or more populated? Like if you have a rural deal and it's not selling cash, is that a better novation or is it better to be more populated? Like where does a novation work better? So, because we're focused on cash.
Yeah.
Deal that's not going to move. We're going to send it to professionals like you, and we don't have to worry about it. But what to look for?
So novation. So you have to think of it through the lens of buyer pool, right? Okay. So when you're talking about fix and flips, in the grand scheme of things, like screw market, right? In the grand scheme of things, are there less retail end buyers or less fix and flip buyers?
Oh, okay.
Well, there's less fix and flip buyers. It doesn't matter if you're in the hottest fix and flip market in the country, there's less of those than there are retail buyers, right? So now take that into a rural market. There's absolutely less fix and flip buyers than retail buyers. So a novation is almost always going to get more eyes on the property, but it's not as easy as just saying, oh yeah, definitely like novation. It has to qualify, right? You want it to qualify for FHA and VA because that's going to open up the buyer pool a bit more. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, based on these pictures,
Yeah, I would probably like skip this one. This is probably not the greatest example. It's a tough one.
well, it's a tough one, but a tough one could. What does he want for the property?
Well, we're not doing it anymore because they didn't want to do innovation. But initially, we were gonna do like cash 350, but we then did the
Woo!
research. Was like that's not gonna work anywhere at all. And
Yeah,
then we pitched like
feel better, man.
300. We pitched 300 innovation, and they were like, no, we don't want to do that. They said they're just gonna remodel it and do it themselves. And I was like, okay.
How did you underwrite cash at 350?
Well, yeah, it was a mistake, to be honest. I was just doing it quickly on the phone with them. And then after
Okay.
I got off the phone, I like did a little bit more. And I was like, yeah, there's no way it's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the house is nice enough and it could go novation. I'd be curious like how you pitch them the novation, but as far as like the pricing is concerned, I mean, I think you probably would have a safe bet if you went, let's just look at sold in the last
I was
12
thinking
months.
cash like 250, 260, to be honest. Like I was going really low on this.
Yeah, I mean, look at
It's like
these.
the market's so weird. Like there's just nothing there.
Yeah. I mean, if you said best case scenario as is, list price of 350 times 0.9 minus 30K, you know, I think you'd probably be safe at a novation offer around 285.
Yeah. Yeah. I can agree with that. Yeah.
So
Because they were never ready to give it up that low. Which
yeah,
I get it. It's like it's a good property, and if you put a little
Yeah.
bit of work into it, they can definitely sell it on the market.
What,
like when you're at this price point too, though, 350 and above, do you guys ever do listing referrals?
No, we haven't. We kind of just like, it's not a deal, move on to the next. You know, that's kind of our
Yeah.
strategy because we're focused on cash and just have tunnel vision.
Yeah.
But if an opportunity come up sub 2 and someone's not comfortable, I've done sub 2, you've done sub 2, so you give it to people that get run it in the end zone pretty much. But
Yeah. Well,
that's
here's the deal,
typically-
right? In a market like this, where you probably aren't doing a bunch of deals, it's going to be harder if you do a listing referral. But at that price point, right? If you did a listing referral, and let's say the agent sold it for 350 times 0.03, they're going to get 10.5. Let's say they get an 80-20 split. And then I always negotiate a 35% referral fee. That would be like a $3,000 referral fee. It's okay, right? It pays for some marketing, but like in Cali, like I've done listing referrals where I've gotten $15,000 for a listing referral because it's like a $1.5 million price point or
Right.
$1.3 million price point. So, but I'm not doing a listing referral in Birmingham, Alabama, like because that's going to be like $200 and a waste of my time.
Yeah, you might as well just work. You might as well just work the next deal, right?
Exactly. So
Because we go over a lot in titanium of like, you know, novations are cool, sub 2 is cool, but they all have the downsides, right? So like, there's this guy Glenn that's in the group. He had a video on RJ's channel and he made 40 grand off a novation, but he did the novation himself and ran into so many problems. And looking back, he's like, I wish I never did it. Yeah, I got 40 grand, but he wished he just gave it to someone like you and to run with it and have him go back on acquisitions and keep filling the pipe. So he ran into so many things like inspections and he had to come out of pocket. So our novation that we're doing, we had to come out of pocket like $1,000 to help the guys move, but that's fine. Like I was like, what do I need to do? I'll swipe my card and
Available,
I'm still
please.
hands off. Todd, you gotta go.
Fanny.
No, I think you have the wrong number.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank
No
you.
problem.
But yeah, like I'm not doing my own novations at all. I'll send it to people that are professionals. But what downsides of novations have you seen? Like, have you ever had to come out of pocket? Have you had?
We've
the
we've
bad
come out of
side?
pocket. Yeah, so we come out of pocket sometimes. You know, it just depends on the situation. But we're not, you know, we'll wait until we're like pretty secured in the deal. So like we had a deal. I mean, we've come out of pocket $8,000 to $10,000 to get work done, you know, because it was necessary. But on the flip side, we made like 30 grand on that deal, right?
So it's like a risk to reward type of thing, right?
Exactly, right? Like if we're getting through the process. So I'll give you an example of a deal. We had a deal in Joshua Tree. We listed it on the flat fee. Took forever. It was there well beyond our contract. They could have canceled, but we kept on getting inquiries and the seller didn't tell us to take it down or anything. So we're like, let's ride it out. We ended up finally finding a buyer who had an agent. The agent, came in with a super low ball offer. We just ignored him. Then he kept following up. We're like, yeah, the offer's not going to work. He came all the way up to our asking price and backed out of the transaction. So now we had it flat feed. There was no buyer's agent commission, right? But it needed a new roof and it needed a new septic tank. It was like $15,000 to $18,000 worth of work. We were only going to make like $12,000 to $14,000 on the deal. Now, if they told me I had to come out of pocket for that and do all that up front, I would have walked away from the deal because God forbid something goes wrong and they back out or the funding doesn't go through, we're SOL. So, but what I did was I negotiated with the contractors and said, hey, are you guys good with being paid out of close of escrow? Both the roofer and the septic guy were. So now I didn't have to come out of pocket. And we moved forward with the deal. If the deal blew up, I was not on the hook because those contractors would put a mechanics lien on the property and they would get paid whenever the seller finally ended up selling it. So I was like, cool, I'm off the hook, but I'm still going to make my, 14, 15 grand. You know what I mean?
That is smart.
So it just depends. You just have to, there's a lot of things you have to think about. And the thing is with a cash deal, you can go like, all right, well, I want to make $20,000, but I'll stretch it down to 15 or 10. You don't want to do that with innovation. You want to like your MAO. You want that 30 grand gap in there because 95% of deals that are getting sold right now, buyers are wanting interest rate buy downs. They're wanting concessions. They're almost all having some sort of concessions, like $5,000, $10,000 in concessions. Well, that eats into your
chips away on it, keeps chipping away on the profit, right?
Yep. Yeah. And so the 10%, none of you guys asked me this, so I'll just explain it anyway. But the 10% that we take off of the as-is listing is to cover the listing agent's commission, the buyer's agent commission, the seller's closing costs that you're covering, and then some minor concessions, right? You could probably get away with like 97 to 98%, but you want that little bit of buffer. And then the 30 grand is your profit, assuming they don't ask for any like other concessions. You don't need to do any repairs. You don't need to do anything else. And then again, that's your max allowable. I mean, I'm coming in way lower if I can. I mean, we just did a deal. Let's see, I have a deal right now that's going to close before the end of the month. I offered them, I locked it up cash, $57,000. We listed it on market for $130,000 and we got a buyer at 106. So we're going to clear like 40 grand on that deal. Now I didn't pitch it as an ovation. I pitched it as a cash deal, but every single one of my deals, I use the exact same contracts, cash contract, AIF, novation and indemnification agreement. And then after we're under contract and in escrow, we get photos. Then we basically tell them like, hey, this property, and we do this when we go through the contract, and you guys will hear me do this because I'm about to call this guy in an hour to lock up this deal. But when I go through the contract, we have the ability to pre-market our properties. So when we go through, it's like, hey, this property has been selected for pre-marketing. So it's kind of like a coming soon. So it allows us to come higher in our offers because it shortens our timeline and our holding costs. So we're going to pre-market this property as a coming soon. If we find a buyer while we're in escrow and they're coming cash, we'll just assign it to them. If we find a buyer while we're in escrow and they're coming with a loan, we'll novate the agreement to them. Changes nothing for you. You still get your set number that we discussed, and we're entitled to the proceeds. If they're like, well, that seems weird. Why are you just going to sell my property? Well, like I said, we sold a property not too long ago where we put all new flooring, all new carpet in, spent $12,000. Day one after closing, you know what that seller did? They ripped out the carpeting and put new flooring in. It was $12,000 worth of flooring. So what we found is that we can streamline our process and be more efficient by pre-marketing the property, giving buyers the opportunity to choose their fits and finishes and colors of paint and things like that. It allows us to be more efficient save money, which at the end of the day, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, allows us to come up to that number that you were really hoping for.
I
So
see.
if
So you're putting it in the perspective of like, you want it to be ideally for the buyer that's coming in. So you want to make sure you can do whatever they need technically.
You want to find a buyer before you sell it, so that way you can fix it for their standards.
For their
and what you
needs.
want.
Exactly.
It's actually really smart. I never thought about it like that.
And nobody ever bats an eye at it, right? Like it
Right.
never comes
'Cause
up.
it does make sense. Like it logically does. Yeah.
Yep.
It's not like you're
So-
manipulating them. It technically does make sense. Like
Yeah, I say something similar for my, because I'll get the AIF signed on almost anything, but I'll just put it for cash offers. So like I want to find my buyers that way.
Nice.
But I guess I should go that route and start. I mean, most of my deals are all beat up anyways.
so.
Yeah.
If the deal like is at a point where you have to go into the whole assignment fee, are you renegotiating with the seller at a point, or have you ever gone to that point?
What do you mean?
Like the buyers, there's no buyers coming in, and the only buyer you got is at the price that you pretty much contracted for.
Yeah.
Are you renegotiating there, or like what's
1,000%. Yeah. And it's actually easier to renegotiate on novations because you're getting like legitimate inspections from the buyer who's getting the inspections done. So you have
Right.
like a full report, and then you're going to bat with that full report. The other thing that you can do with FHA and VA, so what I'll do is, let's say for example, it needs $12,000 worth of work, right?
Yeah.
To qualify for the loan. We won't even talk to the seller yet. We'll talk to the buyer and say, hey, look, Mr. Buyer, like, here's the deal. We can go ahead and get that work done for you prior to closing. But in order to do that, we need to pack that into your loan. So we're going to need to increase the purchase price $12,000. FHA, VA buyers, they generally don't care because these are people that are coming in with anywhere from 0 to 3 to 5% down, and they don't really have much more money. And so when you position it like that, it's going to cost them what, $3 on their loan? I mean, if you took $15,000 divided by 360 months, that's $41.66. So it's going to change their payment by what, $80 at best,
Yeah.
right? So they don't care. So they're like, that's fine, or they'll negotiate it some. So even if I can only get half from them, then I go back to the seller and then I negotiate half there, and I'm still in the same position I was in.
Right. So if we were to like partner, how does like assignments fee work? Is it a split, or is it like we just give you the deal and you give us like a set fee, or like how does that work?
No, we just split it 50-50. So we just take over. Usually, because we have a process for how we would lock up the novation. So you would go as far as you could with the cash, and then you basically kind of bow out like, I don't think we're going to be able to make it work. I might have one other option for you, and then you tee me up. We'll get on like a 3-way call.
Okay.
Run the call. I'll basically come in as like the white knight on the horse, right? Saving the deal, and then we convert it to the novation. We'll use our paperwork for it. We do a JV agreement. It's just a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
And then we just take everything from there to the finish line. And then you can just focus on locking up more deals, right? Like I said, we TC it, we dispo it, we, vet the agents, so we can handle everything for you.
So on my end, like when I'm speaking to a seller, how should I go with the conversation and then be like, hey, let me bring my partner in for this? Like how far do you go? And then where do I bring you in?
Like the handoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would go to the point, like, if you feel like you still have room to go on a cash wholesale deal, like run that to the finish line. Run that until you're like, there's just
Yeah, hi.
nothing.
Is Daryl available, please?
This is he.
Hey, Daryl. This is Todd. I am calling you regarding the property on Lawton Street that went to auction yesterday. Do you know what happened at the auction by chance?
No, I don't. All I know is my sister's supposed to got the papers. My sister has the paperwork, so I don't know exactly what's going on.
I gotcha. Yeah, is Fanny your mother?
My mother's passed away and my father's passed away.
Okay.
My sister's supposed to get the property. That's all I know.
I gotcha. Should I be talking to your sister?
I don't have her number.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No.
All right. I could find her. No, I'll find it. I just wanted to see how I could help you guys. If she wanted to keep it, or I could even purchase it. And I could tell her what happened at the auction also. Let me just look here and see what is yours. I don't know if it's what's your sister's first name? Let me call him back.
Oh, it dropped. Yeah, Todd's chasing down foreclosures right now. He got a good one yesterday.
Nice.
But yeah, Todd, if you got connection, I'll highlight you again if you got him back on the horn.
Yep.
Keep going, Chris.
Go ahead,
But,
Chris. Thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, just run it to the finish line, and then like, hey, so look, and you got like, this is really where you sell the sizzle, right? Like, this is where all the acting comes in. It's like, man, I feel like we're so close on this. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, it's kind of a stretch, but I might have an option that could possibly work for us. Now, let me ask you this. If I could get this deal to work for you, it just might require a little bit more time and a little bit more access to the property. Is that something that you would be completely opposed to?
Right.
It sounds so easy, right? A little bit more time, a little bit more access. No, why would we be opposed to that if you can get to what we need? Okay, well, here's the deal, right? Like, not many properties get qualified for this. I think maybe 1 out of 50. So that's the reason why I haven't brought this up before. But I think there might be a world where this would actually qualify for this program. Let me see what I can do here. I'm going to put you, I'm going to reach out to my department that handles these. This is basically, you can come up with a program name or whatever, our retail buyer program, whatever you want to name it, right? Concierge service, white glove service. There's a whole host of things you can call it. Just don't say the word novation because it just confuses people, right? Okay. And then what you do is like, when would be a good time? Like, are you going to be available later this afternoon or tomorrow where I can circle back with you? And then just, I put my email and my underwriters on the chat. So just send the deal, like title, put the subject line as the address, send the information you have, whatever info you have. We'll underwrite it. We'll look at it and say, okay, based on the numbers, we think it's a good novation, or hey, it needs to be a little bit lower, or whatever. And then we'll schedule time to just hop on the call together. You'd reach out to them, tee me up like, hey, I'm so glad I was able to get a hold of you. I actually have, one of my colleagues, Chris, on the line. He's the expert in this department. He's going to be able to take this thing all the way to the finish line for you. You have a brief minute. Yeah. Okay, Chris, this is so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. You do all the freaking, brown nose and all that jazz and, get them all excited. And then I come in and then I'll re-engage rapport and go through the process and, really get them teed up. And then we'll lock it up right then and there and then get the ball rolling. And then my dispo team, they'll vet agents in the market to make sure we're getting the right agent. We'll make sure we have a title company that's familiar with novations and can close them and not screw up the freaking deal because we've had that happen before. That's probably one of the most important things is like knowing how to figure out which title companies can actually do it and not screw you. And then and agents as well. But then, we'll just take it across the finish line from there.
Chris,
so
what if
wants to pitch novation on the call? You're just saying, are you opposed to like spending more time or giving more access, and that's it?
Yeah, because what are your cash contracts timelines?
Like usually 30 to 45 days. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So our novation contracts are typically 60-day 60-day close, 60-day inspection period. So they're running simultaneously. And it's 60 business days from the time of receiving approved photos. So, so we do that. Now, if we're looking at it and all the numbers say, hey, to get it at that sell price, all the comps are sitting on market for 4 months, we'll do a longer close of escrow. Like we'll just tell them like, hey, if you need this to sell in 60 days, it needs to be 100,000 lower or whatever the number is. Right. But, we can get this done. We just need more time. Right. So we'll figure that out in the underwriting, but that's the minimum we would do is 60.
Okay. And
Chris, quick question. Sorry, go. I was going to ask Chris, so like our tunnel vision is cash, right? So, but also you want to build things in your business that allows you to pivot to Novation if you need to. And one of them, like Alex was going over yesterday with us, is that AIF, or in order to pitch it later, right, down the pipeline, right? So if our tunnel vision is cash, which is my tunnel vision, how could I set myself up on these closer calls to give myself runway? Like, of course, you try to close it cash, but like in the contract, you want to make sure you have something like Alex was talking about, the AIF in there in case you need to pivot. Is there any things that you could go into these PPL leads or these closer calls on the one call close that if you do lock it up, if you need to pivot to Novation later downstream, it's easier because you did this on this call or this in the contract going into that.
Yeah. So I do
off to you guys or anyone
yes,
else.
I do nothing different, right? Like literally every single deal that I lock up, doesn't matter whether I'm locking it up cash or specifically for a Novation, I'm using the exact same agreement. I have 3 docs all attached. I have the cash purchase agreement, the AIF, and the Novation indemnification agreement. So if I get them at a cash number, when I go through, there's a clause in there regarding pre-marketing, right? Pre-marketing, assignability, and Novation, right? So then when I get to the AIF, hey, remember the pre-marketing? The AIF just gives us the ability to pre-market the property to our retail buyers and all that stuff. And then when I get to the Novation and indemnification agreement, this section here is just a set of escrow instructions in the event that we find a buyer while we're pre-marketing that is bringing a loan to close on the property. It just tells escrow exactly how to handle the transaction. So it changes nothing, right? It really makes
the playbook's the same, right?
Exactly. It's the same. As far as they're concerned, it's a cash deal, right? And all of my contracts, we do a 60-60. So, and then if I get pushback on that, I'll flex on that if I need to. But for the most part, people aren't pushing back on a 60-day close timeline. I'm setting it up early, like, hey, our average close timeline is usually within 30 to 60 days. Is there any reason that wouldn't work for you? No. Okay, cool. And then just breeze along, right?
And what was I going to say? Fuck. So let's just say I lock Alex up cash, right? A few days go by, we're not getting any traction, or maybe it's just not a good deal, but it might be a good Novation. You run those numbers ahead of time, you pitch it out to run Novation numbers, and I come back to Alex. I'm like, hey, Alex, I presented this to my partners for a cash deal. It's a little tight, but I have another strategy which could open up the buyer pool if you're open to maybe extending the close of escrow and giving us some more time. Is that kind of like the conversation?
You're talking about if you already have a cash deal and you've done what you're
already dispoing it.
Got it.
Working. So you come back to renegotiation and be like, hey, Alex, I've sent this to my partners. We're not getting much feedback. Maybe we extend closing dates so I could bring in, a different buyer pool that, or I don't know, like, how do you set up the call? You know what I mean?
So you want to have, like, it's hard to do that if you haven't gotten somebody physically out to the property, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So ideally you want to have gotten somebody physically out to the property, whether
it's a buyer or even a thumbtack walker to take photos, right?
Yeah, even a photographer, right?
Okay.
So whoever that is, or you can, if you think you're going to pivot to that, you can reach out to an agent, and possibly have an agent go out and walk it. But that way you can legitimately say, hey, we've had some walkthroughs and inspections, our guys looked at it. Unfortunately, we feel like you were being very honest about the condition, but there were some things that came up that they just weren't expecting. Now, if it's not really a fixer, like like a fixer is not going to be a novation, right? Like something that's like an actual fixer. So
True.
like that's been an issue, right?
It's got to go through the filter first to even open up the novation door, right?
Yeah, like you'll know looking at it, like they're like, oh no, it's good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just dated. It just needs to be brought up to 2024 standards. Like you in those conversations, like, all right, this is not like a distressed property. They might be a distressed person or distressed financially, but it's not really a distressed property. And then, you're already going to be in the back of your mind, like this is probably going to make more sense as innovation. And if they want a high number, because the general rule of thumb for a cash, right, in most markets is going to be, if ARV is 300, you're going to go 75% of ARV minus repair costs. And if it's 1,300 square feet, maybe it's $40,000. And then your target assignment fee, ours, we start with a $40,000 assignment fee. So my low cash offer is going to be like 145 to 165, right? Whereas, if that's a $300,000 ARV, let's say it's a 255 as is, then I go times 0.9 minus $30,000. I can come all the way up to 199 for my novation offer, right? And I know based on what they're telling me about the condition that it's already, that it's going to qualify, for that type of financing, and it's going to be pretty easy and straightforward. You know what I mean?
How do we know, like, when they have a price point that they're not willing to budge? How do we know that's something we should present to you before we even underwrite, if we're not going to underwrite it? Or should we just give it to you regardless? Also, I don't want to waste your time with like deals that don't make sense number wise, but like, what point do you want us to do when it comes to like their number that they're pretty firm on?
Well, I mean, it depends, right? Like, so here's a little tip when you're negotiating with somebody, and you'll hear me do this, and I'll start getting on some calls in a minute too. When I get to the negotiation, they're like, yeah, I can't come down. Like, okay, so the other day I had a guy, he's like, oh, we want 500. I'm like, okay, how flexible is that? Not is that flexible, because that's a yes or no question. How flexible is that, right? Now he has to actively say that it's not flexible, right? As opposed to
saying yes or no.
Psychologically, right? How flexible that is. They're usually going to be like, it might be a little bit flexible. Or they're going to be like, no, it's not flexible. Like, oh, okay, got it. So if I go to the underwriters and they come back and they're like 498, should I just tell them to go pound sand? And I want it to be such a small, minuscule amount that it would seem absolutely ridiculous to them to walk away from a $2,000 reduction because I want them to say, well,
you're open somehow. Yeah, I got you.
That tells me there's some flexibility, right? And I'm like, I just need to know that there's a little bit, and then I'm still going to come in lower. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I would definitely leverage that in there. But if you're doing a good job of anchoring with a low cash offer, and if they're ridiculous and you're coming in anchoring a low cash offer, and it's like, hey, look, here's the deal. I mean, is there any reason you would be opposed to listing it if that's the only way to get the number that you're looking for? Well, I really don't want to, list it and deal with agents and all that stuff. Like, okay, that could be a good novation. And they don't want to go that route. We want to clear the deck of them just going and listing it because they could. And you say, well, I mean, the reality is like everybody in the industry, like quite frankly, Ms. Jones, we all use the same calculator. We all have access to the same material costs, right? Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace Hardware, right? So we're all paying the same stuff for materials. Nobody's doing the work for free. We all have access to the same contractors that are all charging about the same. So the reality is like any cash offer is going to be coming in right around where I'm at. Why don't you just keep it as a rental? Oh, well, I can't keep it as a rental. Oh, why not? Right? You don't care. You want them to sell themselves on not keeping it as a rental. Okay, well, why don't you list it on market? Well, I don't want to list it on market. Oh, why don't you want to do that? Well, I don't like realtors, blah, blah, blah. They don't know what they're doing. I just want them clearing the deck, right? It's like playing blackjack, right? Yeah, it's you against the house, but you have all these other people at the table that are taking cards that could be yours, right? And so you want to get those people to fold, right? So now it's just you in the house, and then it's like, I might have another option for you, but do you have any flexibility, right? And if they're just like, no, and the numbers don't work, it's like, well, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, like, what happens if you don't sell the house for the number that you want? Like, what happens if nobody wants to buy it at that number? What are you going to do? And this is going to tell you whether there's actually motivation or not.
Yeah, if
right?
they say they'll keep it, then there's no point. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no motivation. You're just wasting your time. And like, there has to be motivation there because they could just listen with an agent or you could just work another deal, huh?
1,000%. So at some point, it's just kind of a shit or get off the pot type of moment. You know what I mean?
I get it. So pretty much ideal scenario is cash doesn't work, but they're willing to come up a little bit or negotiable. At the same time, they don't want to work with the realtor or rent it out or keep it.
Yep.
And their time frame is they're not urgent to leave and they have a little bit of flexibility.
Yeah, like you don't want somebody that's got a pending auction date within 30 days.
Yeah.
Like that's not a good scenario. We can get the auction postponed, like we've done that within a day of an auction date. But like that's generally not a great novation scenario because if they're in a foreclosure situation with a pending auction date, chances are there's probably issues with the house because they don't have money to fix things either. And so then you're going to run into things in inspections with end buyers and there'll be problems there. So,
so even on the call, like you can tell generally like whether or not the condition is something that would probably work for novation and the year build, etc.
Yep.
Do you need the pictures beforehand to go through with the purchase agreement or is that a process after?
Nope. So the way our process works is we lock, like I'm trying to one call close everybody I talk to.
Right.
That's my, then from there, within 24 to 48 hours, we do a welcome call. And then our TC will schedule a photographer. So Home Jab will go out and get photos and videos of the property. And then from there, we just run it through the process and we dictate what we want to do with it, whether we're going to go novation or whether it's going to be a cash wholesale deal. The only times we're focusing on cash wholesale, if it's an absolute fixer that cannot go retail, right? But if it's anything else, we'll just, even if I locked it up cash,
you still can't go novation.
Exactly. And our TC will just be like, hey, just wanted to give you guys a heads up. This property has actually been selected for our pre-marketing. So let me walk you through what that looks like. We might have a few extra walkthroughs. We're going to start marketing the property as a coming soon so we can try to find our end buyers while we're going through the process. And Mr. and Mrs. Jones, that's what gives us the ability to get to the number that you wanted, right? So they'll appreciate you working with us on this and then just go through the process. Everything just has to be very straightforward and like it's just a matter of fact.
So like ideal scenarios, like you get it for cash and you realize it's like a perfect novation to make even more, then you just go that route.
1,000%. So here, I'll give you an example.
Or you don't work it yourself, Sharon. You give it to other people.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
Let me do this. I'm going to show you.
I think it's okay to work it yourself if you have the right processes in place.
Yeah. If you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You guys can see this. So we had a deal where the seller wanted $550, right? That's what he wanted. So for a cash number, now it had an ARV of about 750. So ARV 750. The as-is list price was 725. Okay. Now, for me to make this a cash offer. This is in San Diego, by the way, so 750. Buyers are usually buying about 80% of the RV, minus, this was about a 1,300 or 1,400 square foot property, so it was about a $60,000 renovation. And then I would want to make 40 grand. So I would have needed to be, at like 490 to 500. Heat for cash, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He was never going to take that.
Yeah.
Even if, and actually, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this one was probably closer to $100,000 worth of work. So I think even at this number, I might have been able, if I could get them to agree to it, I might have been able to make $5,000. Okay.
Yeah.
So $5K assignment. For Novation at 725 times 0.9, 652.5 minus 30K is 622.5. We actually came all the way up to 545, right?
That was a fat deal.
Making like $60,000, $70,000 on that deal.
Right. That's crazy.
Versus just cash. Yeah.
Versus a $5,000, assignment fee.
Right. Did you have to do any work to it?
Not a dime of work.
Wow. And if it does need work, do you give them credits or do you fix it?
Well, usually, yeah, we'll start with trying to offer concessions on the price. And then, but if it's a financing contingency where the lender requires certain things to be done, then we'll ask them, okay, does it have to be completed prior to escrow or can it be scheduled and it be done after close of escrow? So that's the first step. If they're like, no, it has to be done before close of escrow, okay, then we'll reach out to contractors and we'll try to find a contractor that's okay with being paid at close of escrow so we don't have to come out of pocket.
Epic.
Quick question. So you said if you went the Novation route, of course, there's more meat on the bone, but if you went the cash route, you would only make 5K. What if that's more advantageous to the seller and he just wants that? Would you just say, okay, let's lock it up cash, get 5K and dip out?
Well, again, my contracts, right? I'm doing a 60-day close of escrow regardless, whether it's cash or Novation. So it changes nothing for me. And I'm not necessarily telling them I'm going through the Novation, but when I lock it up and I go through the agreement, we highlight, hey, this is our pre-marketing clause. This just gives us the ability to pre-market the property like a coming soon. So in their mind, right, it's still a cash deal. We're still closing on it cash. They're getting what they want. Right. So, hey, we'll property, blah, 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 and then we get to the Novation and assignability. And it's like, yeah, pursuant to the pre-marketing, if we find somebody that wants to buy it while we're in escrow for cash, we're just going to assign it. And if we get somebody that brings a loan, we're going to novate it. This changes nothing for you. You still get the net number that we agreed to. Everything stays the same for you. It's just the mechanics of how we close. So really, it doesn't really bother you at all, right? And then I'll throw out this. This is a key line. Because again, when you're trying to just get somebody to fall in line with what you're doing, where a question could come up and it could be like a hurdle, you want to make it the most extreme scenario. So they just like, oh yeah, right? So what I'll say, the next clause, it says, REI Made Easy is entitled to the delta, right? Anything above and beyond this number. I'm like, so perfect example. Let's say, we pre-market the property and we get a buyer who's like, I think there's oil underneath this property and they want to pay us $1 billion for it. Well, you don't care, right? We're going to be entitled to anything above and beyond the $200,000 that we agreed to. And, such is luck, right? If he finds oil, great. We made $1 billion, but you don't care if we made $1 billion, right? Because you got the number you wanted. They're like, oh yeah, if you guys find oil on this, like good for you guys, right? Like that's the response I get every single time, right? And so they just roll along with it. Oh, I don't care if you make money above and beyond, right? That's what you're supposed to do. That's why you're in business.
Yeah.
So it avoids the hiccup of, oh, you're just trying to mark it up and sell it.
But also, you're also taking on the responsibilities of if things come up, it doesn't go back. Because RJ was saying this the other day too, like, if you don't have the funds to fall back on a Novation and shit pops up, like it's not going to go according to plan, right? So if things pop up, you as a Novation expert, you built a system where, you could handle those speed bumps, right? But like, if you don't have that fund where you could adapt, you're not going to help your seller, because if you negotiate, be like, hey, the buyer says it needs this done because the foundation's cracked. Well, I don't have fucking money. Like, you're the buyer. You said you handle all of it, right? So going into it, you just have to be aware in your business where if things popped up and it required capital, you could weather the storm, right? And you built that within your business, right?
Yeah, and the reality is there can be things that come up that completely obliterate your deal, no matter what, right? We just had one in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
So we had this deal teed up. We had this deal fully teed up. It was all good to go. Buyer in place, going through inspections. We were going to make like $13,000 or $14,000. It wasn't going to be a big deal, but it wasn't going to. It should have been a cash deal, but it also could have been a novation. But when the buyer was going through inspections, turns out that the freaking foundation was just completely shot. Like, absolutely. It was basically a gingerbread house. And there was like $50,000 to $70,000 worth of foundation work that was unexpected on our side of the table. And the seller kind of knew about it. But even if the seller didn't know about it, we'd go back to the seller and be like, hey, this came up in inspections. Like, we appreciate you being honest about the condition to the extent of your knowledge, and that way you're doing a same side of the table discussion, right? You don't want to be negotiating on the other side, right? And the analogy I give is, picture a divorce proceeding, right? Where you're in divorce arbitration. Has anybody here gone through divorce?
Too young for that.
But you see it in the movies and the TV shows, right? You got this long lawyer table. You got an attorney and a wife, and then you got an attorney and the husband. And usually they're freaking screaming at each other, and it's just an argument, right? You don't want it to be an argument. So same side of the table is like you're teaching your kid math, right? You come alongside them and you're helping them out. So we always come alongside the seller, and it's like, hey, we appreciate your honesty. We're very forthcoming in the condition and everything. Unfortunately, something came up that I don't think any of us were expecting, right? So my job today is to get on with you and collaborate with you to figure out how we can resolve this and move forward amicably, right? And so now it's like we're working together on this problem that's affecting everybody. And then we go through the negotiation and say, God forbid we can't get this done at the current price. What kind of flexibility do you have? And this is after I've already rattled off the laundry list of things that it needs, like a whole new foundation that's going to cost us $50,000 to $60,000, which was not expected. This is a skinny deal in the first place. Nobody's getting rich off of this, but we obviously can't come out of pocket $50,000, $60,000 when there's no reserves to handle that. So what do we do, Mr. and Mrs. Jones? How do we resolve this?
Right. So 2 questions. What if I'm on a call and they ask me, oh, what is this program all about? And do I just I can't just say talk to my partner about it because I don't seem credible. So what would I do in that scenario?
Yeah, you absolutely can, right? You can just say, hey, you know what? That's a great question, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, and my partner, Chris, he's the absolute expert. He'll be able to answer any of the questions that you have. I'm just really worried that if I start trying to explain it, I'm just going to butcher it and it's going to confuse. And if you guys are anything like my wife, if I go to my wife and I try to explain to her a plan that I have for something and it's not dialed, it doesn't matter if it's the greatest plan on planet Earth and it's going to save all of humanity. She checks out and wants nothing to do with it. So
it's like someone pitching a new sub 2 that's new to the community. They butcher it.
Yeah.
So you don't want to they might know it, but they can't pitch it, right?
Yeah. I would hate to butcher this and this be the actual solution that you need, but you check out because I explained it improperly. So let me do this. Let me grab my partner, Chris. We can get him on a call. He'll go through the whole process with you, answer any questions. At the end of the day, there's no obligation for you to move forward with it. If by the end of the call with Chris, you don't feel comfortable moving forward, no problem. We part ways and we're still friends, right? Oh yeah, we're still friends. Cool. Easy peasy.
Right. I see. And what do we do in a scenario where I buy it up for cash, or I lock it up for cash, and then eventually I'm like, okay, it's not going to work for cash because of it's in too good condition or it's retail ready. How do we convert that into innovation with you?
Yeah. So if the numbers, like if you look at the as is values and there's room in it for it, and you send it over, we can underwrite it and see. And if we determine, yeah, the numbers make sense, then you could you do a call with them and loop me in on a 3-way call, and I'll pull the rug out from under them. And basically, I'll come in and I'll basically just kill the deal. Like, hey, so this is Mr. Jones. I'm one of the finance partners here at the company. So my job, unfortunately, sometimes this is what my job involves, and then I'm basically bringing them the reality of the fact that, like, unfortunately, based on all the numbers, the inspections, the condition, what we came up with, financing costs, and the state of the economy right now in the market, I've got some bad news for you, and we want to take them on this roller coaster. So we pull the rug out from under them. They're like, ugh, right? Because their house is already sold. Once people sign a contract, they're committed to moving forward. They shelf the idea of selling their house anymore because it's already sold in their mind. So you pull the rug out from under, and then it's like, but I might have some good news for you.
Okay.
Oh, what's the good news? Well, we actually have this program, and how do you pronounce? Is it Sharon?
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason Sharon didn't bring it to you before was because, quite frankly, 1 out of 50 properties even qualifies for this program. And, when he brought this to me and the team, the underwriters and everything came and said that this deal wasn't going to work, I went ahead and I put it through the underwriting for this program. And I got great news for you guys. This property actually qualifies for our retail buyer program. Let me just explain exactly how that works. It gives you all the benefits of the cash number that Sharon had worked with you on, all the benefits of a cash sale. You get that guaranteed number in your pocket, net, minus any mortgage or debts that you have on it. And we get this across the finish line. So I'm going to walk you through the process, and then I just go through step by step, and I'll have the contract prepared. I'll have them open their email, and I'll walk them through, and I'll get them to initial and sign right then and there on the call.
I got you.
So
cool. That was very educational. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries, man. Anytime.
Could you also drop your number in there? I'll just have your contact ready.
Yeah, sure.
Chris, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
What up, Caesar? Doing good. How about you?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. Still got your team out there doing your Saturday power hours?
We haven't been doing Power Hour for a while. We've been rethinking and reimagining it. I want to bring it back at some point here, but we'll see. We're just figuring it out. Plus, it's a lot of time, especially with the baby and everything. I don't get a ton of time during the week with the family. So,
got it.
How you been?
Doing all right, man. Just slinging ugly houses.
Nice.
Chris, really appreciate you going over all this, man. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no worries. By the way, if you guys have not checked out our YouTube channel, just go to YouTube and Real Estate Investing Made Easy. And we've got like hundreds of videos on there and stuff.
Yeah, drop your YouTube in the chat and I'll put it on the screen. If not, put it in the public chat and then I'll put it on the screen too.
Perfect. Yeah, so let's see.
Sometimes it doesn't let you guys post a link, so you have to let me post it.
Just subscribed.
Perfect.
Oh wait, Randy's at his real estate agent job, so he can't be on here closing deals today. Usually he's on here, but he asked Brandon. Not sure if I missed it, but can you ask Chris who he uses for his cold call texting campaigns?
We have an in-house team that does our text message marketing. We used to run a company that would do text message marketing for other real estate investors nationwide. And so we built and scaled a team of VAs that did that, but eventually regulations started kicking in. The number of leads we were able to to generate and the cost didn't really make a whole lot of sense for us to continue that business model. So we ended up, dialing that down and just focusing on our own campaigns and focusing on the real estate business.
What do you guys use?
Launch Control. Here, I'll
You're
actually
using them.
Yeah, I know what that is.
Yeah, I'll give you a it's an affiliate link, so I'll get hooked up if you guys end up using them, but it gets you I forget what the bonus is that it gets you.
Oh, here, Randy said, oh yeah, Launch Control and like Smart.
Yeah, we've used both. At one point, we were going to switch from Launch Control to Smarter Contact, and we did, and we tested it for a few months, and there were some benefits to it, but the challenges that we ran into exceeded the benefits, and so we actually switched back to Launch Control.
Oh wow, I'm using Smarter Contact. I've been thinking about looking at other options. Okay, that's good to know that you like them. How many messages do you guys send a day?
Depends on which account. We have 3 accounts. So I think on the highest account, we're sending out about 1,200 messages a day.
1,200?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not that much.
Per day, though.
Per day.
Oh,
and
we have 3 accounts. So one
okay.
The other one we're doing about 700, and the other one we're doing about 300. So I think total across all 3 accounts, we're probably doing about 2,500 to 3,000 a day.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. 3,000, sometimes 5,000 between 2 accounts.
Nice. So,
But I was thinking about jumping off of it, but maybe it's not a good idea. After what
here's my affiliate link for Launch Control.
Did you send it?
Yeah.
There it is.
And Chris, I know Alex yesterday said that for AIF, some states have notarizations that are required. Are you doing that for every state no matter what? Like, are you getting it notarized, or does it not matter?
I never get it notarized. It's not necessary. So you just need to find a different agent, right? And, because the agent is going to list the property, right? So you sell the agent will just list it, right? Or with the flat fee MLS, you just go to them and they'll usually list it. So I've never really had any problems with it. Not
Chris, what would you recommend, like for my business and my business only? I don't want to speak for anyone else, but we only want to do PPL because we were thinking about property leads, then adding county data and pulling evictions, of course, like that to diverse the lead costs. But that's based on us just using property leads, and we haven't really had a high conversion. So we're going to bring in those leads through the county data and kind of just do a little bit of both. But with us using just speed a lead, we don't want another option. We only want to focus on PPL. But once we get deals and deals and deals, you of course want to diversify your marketing for your leads, right? So if I'm only doing PPL and I'm doing some deals, when do I expand my horizon? If of course the PPL fills up, but you also want to add revenue stream. Like, would you say if that's the case, maybe add a team that could handle that if I'm just doing closes with PPL? Or like, when do you add another channel to your business if one's already dialed in? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question.
If that makes sense.
It's hard to say. Like what CRM are you using?
I just use Go High Level, so it's super easy.
Okay, got it. Do you have automated text messages to keep churning up your leads and stuff like that?
I removed text messages because we were doing PPL, so I didn't need to do automated, and I was running into undeliverables, so I didn't want to get fucked with ATP compliant. But adding buyers to the system and doing a lot more cold outreach to the buyers, we've been incorporating like Caesar. I think it was a Caesar or it was Alex at, as soon as they put buyers in the system, it sends a text automatically. And that's when I want to add. I just need to tweak my CRM so I don't get in text message jail. If you know what I mean?
How many leads do you have in your system?
PPL, probably like maybe 100 or 200.
Just total leads in general.
Just that.
Just 100 or so?
We only do PPL. Yeah, that's it. We don't.
Okay. I have 2018 leads in my CRM. And I'm never okay, let me ask you this. When you talk to somebody, what makes you remove somebody from your CRM?
I don't really remove them. So if I'm talking to you and it's a banger of a deal, I can lock it up. I could close you right now, right? Let's just say wrong price, high motivation. I'm going to hit you up in 2 weeks, right? And I'm just going to, instead of doing like follow up like normal, I'm changing my mindset of when I call you again, it's like a new lead again. I'm just trying to pivot and try it because I've been doing just follow ups, and I want to treat that next call as a new lead again. But it's either a 14-day follow up or a 1 month follow up or a 3 month follow up or a 6 month. So they're always in these loops, and depending on their motivation or price, I segment them based on the loop.
But you don't. So see, it's just a very different mindset, right? Because I have a whole sequence of automated text messages that if a lead is in my CRM, they're getting, unless they're set aside in my manual callbacks because I've spoken to them and I have a reason why I want to call them back. Everybody in my CRM is getting text messages at some frequency, right? Because you never know. Like the worst pain you are ever going to feel in this business, aside from a deal blowing up and you not getting paid the day of closing and it getting completely lambasted and your SOL, is following up with a seller who's like, oh, I just signed a contract yesterday.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I've felt that probably a dozen times. And so we have automated text messages that go out at all different frequencies because I always want to be in front of them. And the moment time changes their circumstance and now they're ready to consider selling again, I want to be in front of them and I want them to respond to my text message so that now I'm teed up to just call them because time will change circumstance. And a perfect example of that is if I look at I have a report for marketing time to convert. What do you think the longest time that a lead has ever been in my CRM from the time it became a lead to the time we locked it up under contract?
I don't know. RJ had something like this and he said it was like 2 years.
599 days.
So that's a few years, right? And that's
basically almost 2 years. Another one, 584 days, 512. So these contracts, I've got at least 11. This is just 11 contracts that we locked up this year. 9 contracts that were locked up this year that were in our CRM for a year or longer.
Mm-hmm. It's all about, because what I'm thinking, because like RJ says, get on the call. It's either a deal or not a deal. Like it's either you pass or, it's deal or no deal, right? So for me, when I put them in those follow-ups, like you said, things could change, but I don't want to talk to them if they're a 14-day follow-up or a 3-month follow-up, things compound. So I don't have time to call that person, but
yeah, that's why we have the automated text messages. Exactly.
In between that gap, send out text here. Like if this is a 1 month follow-up, maybe put a text automation here, like send a text every week.
Yep.
And I don't have to do that because I'm running into follow-ups being compounded. So I'm going back to my business and saying, hey, why am I reaching this person every 2 weeks when I know it's not a deal? Like I'm wasting my time, but that could be a text that's automatic.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing. I don't want to follow up. I can't. It's impossible. And especially the length of my calls. Like if I get on a call and I pitch somebody, right, like from start to finish, and I make an offer and they accept my offer, I negotiate and accept my offer, I could be on the call for between an hour to an hour and a half, going through the contract and everything with them, right? So like my process is very different from RJ Bates. And RJ Bates is great. He's like just churn. Like I focus on a lot of rapport building and, making a connection. Like I had a guy yesterday I talked to who's definitely distressed and he's going to sell his property at some point. But literally on the call, like we're talking about religion and, you know, my adopted daughter and like how he fell away from the faith and how like, you know, he respects people who are committed to their faith. And, you know, and I'm telling him about how, hey, God is good when you're going through problems. Like we couldn't get pregnant for 8 years and now we have an adopted daughter who's an absolute blessing. And if I was in the middle of it, I wouldn't be able to tell you how God was good in that scenario. But looking back on it after we have our daughter, it's like, that's why we went through what we went through, because we wouldn't have our adopted daughter if it wasn't for, you know, not being able to get pregnant. Right. And so like we connected on that. And he's like, I've been doing sales for 40 years. The guy's 85 years old. He's like, I've been doing sales for 40 years. Nobody has ever been able to connect with me the way that you have. And when I sell this house, I want to work with you.
Mm-hmm. Right. You're just a go-to guy when that time comes in his personal life. Because it's not all about us; it's about them too.
Yeah, 1,000%. It's only about them.
It's only about them. Yep.
Because they don't care about you. Like, and the other thing is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
It's my number one line.
Chris,
Love it.
Chris,
So
I have a pretty good looking deal that just came in. It's a fourplex, Kansas City.
Uh-huh.
And, ARV looks like it's 420. And can you guys hear that noise in the back?
The ringing?
You're good.
Yeah.
That's me.
Okay.
Mine's ringing too. But I'm thinking like it'll need about, I mean, the photos don't look too bad. So maybe like 50,000 in repairs. So 370 as is. So that would put it at about 300. The guy would take 325. So it's not like that far away as a novation deal.
Wait, how are you coming up with the as is value?
I'm thinking that it'll probably need about $50,000 in repairs.
Yeah, so I don't use that to come up with the as is value. What I look at is actual comps that have sold that are in its current as is condition, right?
Okay.
Because and so logically it might be like, okay, well, if it could sell for 420 and it needs 50, then it should be 370 right now. But there's also the opportunity cost and the time that it takes to do that. So it's not necessarily as black and white. You could have a scenario where that as is, like I've seen some where the ARV was 425 and to get to 425, it needed $50,000 worth of work, the ARV was 425 and it needed 50 grand of work. So you would think as is would be 375, but the as is comps were selling for 400.
Oh, wow.
Right. And then you could also have the opposite, right? You could have the as is comps selling at like 2.25, right?
Yeah.
So you have to look at what could it sell for, like what are comps selling for in like for like condition to that property.
Got it. Okay. Because everything in that area looks to be just like everything's fixed up. All the comps that I'm seeing are all fixed up.
Okay. And they're all selling at what,
393, 450.
What about actives? Look at active comps on market.
Let's see. I can share the address with you also so you can take a look at the same time.
Yeah, no worries. I'm gonna
send a private chat.
I'll be right back. Just give me like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Sweet. Yeah, Chris is dropping some gold.
Dude, he's dropping some gold.
I was just gonna drop that on the private chat. I came in late, but dude, he's a ton of knowledge, bro. His team is his team's really good. Him and Brad.
I used to be like, I need help with this. Help me, bro. Help me, Chris.
Yeah.
Like when we're all new and like we're infants, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, today's just a buyer day for me. I'm just trying to track down these buyers. One deal wasn't sticking. We couldn't get any walkthroughs, and Kathy was kind of stressed out. But then we're at the dog park, and someone inquired about this deal that we thought couldn't move, and it just changed her whole mindset. So she was super stoked. So when you think you can't unload a deal, well, we haven't unloaded it yet, but you just keep the ship moving, right? Don't veer off and just keep the faith, right?
Yeah.
Man, these buyers aren't picking up. I got 4 deals to move. Well, 3. One's innovation, 3's cash, and 1 signed. I sent a contract yesterday. Remember, you and Kathy were talking about like Florida deal, and it was too
The
good to be true.
200,000.
Yeah. So I did a follow-up call. Nothing on that one, but I don't get like he could just list it for somebody owner for like 300.
Yeah.
So something doesn't smell right, but
Yeah, that's what Kathy and I were
Isn't
saying.
it?
It's like
Isn't
there's
it, right?
something going on there inside that we're not able to see right now, you know?
Mhm.
But dude, I know Chris is dropping a lot of knowledge, and I actually have a lot of calls I gotta make, so I'm gonna do
Yeah,
my own
that's what I'm
thing.
thinking in the background.
I'll hop back on later. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
if you got any good calls, let me know, and I'll bring him to the stage.
Well, no, but the thing is, like, he's dropping a lot of knowledge, and I know a lot of people are watching, so I think I'll go ahead and do my own thing, but I'll hop back on later.
Sweet, man.
Cool. You guys have a good one, man.
See you, bro. How many people are watching?
We got 18 live. I've never had this many people live. That's dope.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think people find value because they see us and we're just normal people
Yeah.
doing deals.
All right. Actually, I have to call this seller and lock up this deal real quick.
Let's see it.
So let's dial this guy.
Yeah, I'm just doing some dispo follow-up, so I'm just kind of dropping in, dropping off.
No, I love talking about all this stuff. Yeah, I definitely get sucked down the rabbit hole, and
Yeah, when I was hosting my Zooms with Pace, you get so caught up in sharing knowledge, and you're like, "Fuck, I need to put my own mask on." So
I need to actually freaking make calls.
I get stuck in that all the time because I'm like, it's fun to talk about, you know.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just like, shit, I need to work.
But until you're selling a course, it ain't making you money.
Yeah.
So, which by the way, you can sign up for our course right here at Real Estate Investing Made Easy. All right, so I'm gonna. Okay.
Where is that?
No, I'm joking. I mean, we have some stuff that we sell, but
Alex sells his food
I mean,
tags.
I'm interested in learning more about the Novation. So
I want to know about the Novation, so I know what not to do, so I could stretch my brain to send to someone else.
Hello.
Raphael.
Yeah,
Hey, it's Chris. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How was that Dolphins game yesterday?
Oh, dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. I had a beer and got sleepy. I probably watched half the first quarter,
Oh man.
and that's okay.
Yeah, well,
And went to bed.
good thing that you can record all that stuff and everything. You could just go back and rewatch anyway, right?
Right, right. I didn't have a dog in the fight anyway.
Okay. All right.
Hey, do me a favor.
Yeah.
Can you call me right back? Because I'm hearing myself.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, let me try calling you
Yeah,
right
it's
back.
like a bad connection.
Okay. Yeah, I'll call you right back.
Okay, thanks.
All right, that might create a challenge. I've had that issue when calling through the speakerphone before. So let me call again.
If it gets too gnarly on our end, I'll just mute you, like if there's any feedback, but it was good on our end.
Okay.
Hello.
Raphael, you there?
I am.
All right.
That's
Perfect.
okay. I'm still hearing myself.
Oh, really?
But yeah, it's
interesting.
but no biggie. I can work through it.
Okay. All right. No worries, man. Well, yeah, glad we could reconnect here. So looks like, seems like we're all ready to move forward on the property there on Allisonville, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. So let's see here. So it's yourself and your wife, Chandra on title, right?
Correct.
Okay. Perfect. Is she available as well?
I'm sorry.
Is she available as well?
No, she's at work, but she's on board.
Okay. All right, perfect. Do you have access to your email?
I do.
Okay. And then I will need her email basically once. So it'll send to you, and then I'll go through the agreement with you, kind of walk you through the process. And then once we go through and complete it, then it'll automatically forward to her. What's her email address?
It is. Hang on one second.
No worries.
It is CD Coffee 10 at gmail.com.
Okay, so CD as
Yes,
perfect.
like 10, the number 10, not 10.
Oh, the word 10.
No. The numeral 10.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, I didn't want you to put CD Coffee 0.
Got
You know
it.
what I mean?
Yep. So CD Coffee, the number 1, the number 0 at gmail.com.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. All right. So let me
Yeah, and I was thinking about something.
Yeah.
I have not really done a whole lot of due diligence regarding the legitimacy of your company.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm certainly not questioning it at all, but we live in interesting times.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. So what questions specifically do you have?
Well, I looked you guys up online, got a website and all that. If you could just email me, I wouldn't call it your charter, but in essence, that's what it would be. Like, do you have some literature that talks about who you are?
I mean, we have like literature on like our website.
Yeah. And it might just be your link.
Yeah. So I can text you that. It's pretty easy
that'd be
too.
great.
It's just www.lasprop.com.
Okay.
But I'll text that to you right now. And yeah, I mean, basically between the partners, been in business since 2009. Doing deals all over the country, started out in San Diego and then expanded. We've had multiple different entities, because we do different exit strategies. We do long-term rentals, we do assisted living facilities, fix and flips, like all different types of stuff. So we've been around.
And I thought of you. I thought of you a couple of days ago because I think when you and I talked probably a month ago now, I said, shit, at the end of the day, so you guys could sell the damn property and make money. Just the property.
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw like 81st in Allisonville, there's a half acre on sale for $125,000. I was like, oh, Jesus.
They just listed that?
Not too long ago.
Okay.
But it have to be within the last 2 weeks or so.
Got it. But it's just a vacant lot?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be, what we've been seeing is a pretty massive slowdown in vacant lot sales as of late. So I wouldn't be shocked if it sits for quite a while.
Yeah.
We've had that happen a lot lately. Just because the building costs are so high, interest rates are so high, the time that it takes to go through development and everything is really challenging and, just super costly right now. And then all the developers are holding tight with the election because God knows what the heck's going to happen, in November. So.
Well, I'd say in that instance, if you're going to buy a lot, you better be a veteran.
Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And you better be building something like what do they call them? Barn dominium.
Yep.
they're pretty. There's not much to the building.
Yeah.
Like a big old pole barn.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that's a big thing these days. You know, and then because we're based out of Southern California, and the big thing right now is ADUs, because there's such a shortage of property out here, and there's no real land to build because there's so many canyons, right? So you have very limited space to build. So they have reduced the regulations for building accessory dwelling units. But so now everybody thinks their house is worth so much more because, oh, you could build an ADU,
Right.
but it's like, yeah, I could build an ADU, but like, how big is that going to be? Like, your lot is only 4,000 square feet, you know, and you've got a 2,000
Right.
square foot house. Like, what am I going to do? Build an ADU
Well, here,
yeah.
you know what you're seeing here. If it's a new construction, townhomes, they're depending on the right area.
Uh-huh.
There's a town that's just north of Indianapolis. That's a suburb.
Yep.
Carmel.
Oh yeah.
And I take my son to his workouts up in Carmel, and there's a road. I don't know how big the lot is, but they built a bunch of townhomes, and they're also, like, I would imagine they're probably, call it 1,400 square feet, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. They probably have a garage in the back. And in Carmel, those are probably going for $500,000.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Carmel's a hot market.
And I'm just like, geez, I
Yeah.
wish I'd have paid more attention in school. I could just develop my own lot.
Yeah. Oh, trust me. I always think about it. I'm like, man, I'm turning 42 in 7 days. And,
Young man.
yeah, man, I don't feel young after 12 years of jujitsu competitions. I definitely don't feel young at all, but, I'm like, man, I wish I could go back, 10, 15 years and tell myself to get into real estate back then.
But why don't you just be like Steven Seagal and, never kick, never get hit?
Yep. Exactly. That's funny.
Yeah, and just gets fatter and fatter every day.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. Well, all right. So I've got everything all set up for you. Should be in your inbox right now. You have access to your email?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see here.
Let's see where. Okay. Not in my spam yet, and not in my inbox yet.
Okay. Let's see. Sometimes it takes just a minute. Let's see here. Okay, that's usually the signal on my end that it's actually like left the outbox.
Okay. Yep, there it is.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So let me know when you get that opened up, and I'll just kind of walk you through the agreement.
Okay, I am.
All right. So you should see purchase contract for real estate at the very top.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So can you just confirm the spelling of you and your wife's name is correct right there?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. And then REI Made Easy Inc. is one of our entities that we typically will enter into contract under. Is the address for the property there all correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't expect you to know the APN off the top of your head. We pull that from tax records. But if there's any errors with that title, we'll take care of that. So that's not a big deal. The next section, description of the property. It's as is. So basically, whatever the current condition is, now anything that is attached to the property basically is part of the property and is considered part of the property. Total purchase price that we had agreed to with you is we got them to come all the way up to the $660,000. And so the earnest money deposit is to make the contract legally binding, and then the remaining funds are paid out at close of escrow. Section 1 is closing costs. So all closing costs will be covered by the buyer, us. Section 2 is just any existing debt attached to the property. So this is any mortgage, any home equity lines of credit, any mechanic liens, any debt that's already pre-existing that is paid by you, and that comes out of your proceeds at close of escrow. Okay.
There's only one mortgage on this joint.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. And then section 3 is tax proration. I believe Indiana, you guys post pay your taxes. So whatever the taxes that are due that you still owe up to the date of closing, the title company will pull out of your proceeds. Okay.
Okay.
And then close of escrow will be as soon as practical, but no later than 60 days. Earnest money is held by the title and closing company. We have our inspection period, so we can do our due diligence, and just get like foundation inspections, just confirm condition like we discussed. Section 7 is access to the property. So basically we just need to be able to access it for the purpose of our inspections. We might have our agents and, other representatives of our company come through to the property. Okay.
Okay.
So at the bottom there on that first page, you can there's an initial box. If you click that, then it should give you the ability to apply your initial to that page.
Got it.
Okay. And then we'll scroll down the next page, occupancy of the property. So we're going to be closing on the property, and it should be vacant at close of escrow. Section 9, title documents. So we're going to get like a normal Alta residential owners policy. Section 10 is title delays. Very rarely does this ever come up, but let's say there was an issue with title where they're like, the great grandson of some guy who previously owned it says he has some sort of claim and we have to clear title, and it causes a delay. It just allows us to extend the close of escrow so that title can clear up any of those title issues. Okay.
All right.
Section 11 is title insurance. If the title is not insurable, it gives us the ability to back out, because obviously we need to have insurable title. Section 12, and I've never had that come up. Section 12 is basically you have the right and authority to sell the property. You're describing it the way that it is, and it's going to be in the same condition as it is today at closing. And that, you understand any personal property left behind becomes part of the property and conveys with the property. Okay.
Okay.
Buyer disclosure. So we're not acting as this, but one of the principal owners of the company is a licensed agent in the state of California. They're obviously not operating in an agent capacity, but we have to disclose that by law. Section 14 and 15 are just default. Basically, we want to move forward to buy the house. You want to move forward to sell the house. So that's not an issue. Section 16 is pre-marketing. So all of our properties, the reason we're able to make the numbers work that we are able to come up to is because we pre-market our properties. And so kind of like a coming soon. So we might market the property out to find end buyers while we're in escrow. Okay. Section 17 is memorandum of contract. This just says that we're going to record our equitable interest in purchasing the property with the county so that they know that we're proceeding with a transaction on this property. Okay.
All right.
And then there's another initial box there. You can click that and then apply. Perfect. Then next page, section 18 and 19. These basically go along with that pre-marketing of the property. So 18 is assignability and novation. in the event while we're pre-marketing the property, let's say we find a buyer that says, I'm ready to buy the property with cash. It gives us the ability to assign our contract to that buyer prior to close of escrow, and we'll close, changes nothing for the price that we agreed to pay you, which is the $660. On the flip side, novation is in the event through pre-marketing, we find somebody that's going to come with some sort of traditional mortgage, conventional FHA, VA, whatever it is, just gives us the ability to proceed with the transaction and then use their lender to process the transaction. And then 19 basically just says that we're entitled to the delta above and beyond what we agreed to with you. So if somebody says, I think there's oil underneath that property there and they want to pay us $1 billion for it, you're still going to get the 660 and we would get the whatever that is, $990 million. And
well, that sucks, don't. That would suck donkey balls.
That would suck donkey balls. And I'll be in the same boat with you. I'll probably be drinking a cocktail with you, drowning my tears because I won't see a dime of that either. So, yeah, so it would suck for both of us. But yeah, so we're entitled to the delta if we sell it for anything above and beyond the 660. And then section. Yeah, for sure.
But it won't be that much.
It won't be $1 billion.
I hope not.
Exactly. Right. Section 20 is basically just stating that the only agreement is what's written here in this agreement. There's no oral agreements or anything else.
Right.
And there's no additional terms or conditions on this particular agreement. So if you scroll down, you'll see there's a signature line. You click that, you can apply your signature. And then there's also a date box. You click that, and then it should pull up a calendar for you to select today's date. And then there should be an initial box as well on that page at the bottom. Okay, perfect. And then we got a couple more things here. If you scroll down further, so this is authorization to sign listing docs and offers. So as we pre-market the property, this just gives us the ability to do that and not have to, go back and forth with you guys as we're pre-marketing the property. So you can click, there's a signature box there and then a date.
Got it.
And then if you scroll down further, the novation and indemnification agreement. This is just a bunch of terms and instructions for the escrow company. So in the event that while we're pre-marketing the property, if we find a buyer that is going to use a conventional loan or FHA or VA, this just gives the escrow company the proper instructions on how to perform that transaction and what they need to do. The main components for you is at the very top of that first page, you'll see the purchase price of $660. Yep. That's what you're getting. And on page 2, section 5 is net proceeds payable to seller is the $660. So those are the things that are relevant to you. And then if you scroll down to the bottom of that page, there's a signature line and a date line there.
Okay.
And then once you...
Friday the 13th, huh?
Friday the 13th. I didn't even realize that until you actually said it. That's funny. At least it's not October Friday the 13th. Then it's a little freakier.
Right. Indeed.
All right. So now that you've finished that, there should be a yellow button that pops up somewhere that says like finish or complete or something like that.
Okay.
And once you click that, then it will automatically finish your section, and then it'll immediately forward the email to your wife.
Okay.
And then she'll be able to go ahead and open it up and then, go through an initial and sign in the same spots and everything. And if you'd like, or if she, has questions or anything, I can hop on a call with her, answer any questions she has, walk her through the process. Or if she's like, nope, I'm good. If Raphael signed it, then I'm going to go ahead and initially sign, and, that's cool too.
What I would say is maybe, obviously I've signed all this. I'm actually sending her a text as we speak.
Okay. And I'll go, before we get off the phone, I'll go over the next steps and like what you can expect along the way, just so you guys kind of understand, you know, what's coming up along the way.
Okay. But yes, I think we're in a good space.
Okay, perfect. Where are you guys headed after this?
I've got a friend who has a vacant house,
Oh, nice.
so that would probably fill the bill for the short term.
Got it. Okay.
I had looked into buying a small lot because I don't really feel like cutting 3 acres every week anymore.
I don't blame you.
If I could, like I said, find and I've got a friend who's a builder.
Yep.
I am intrigued by the idea of getting building a property that's about a couple thousand square feet, and it's one of these metal structures.
Nice.
Not really, kind of a barn dominium where there's just not much to it. It's largely open space.
Mm-hmm.
So really you're talking about the shell.
Yep.
So that's kind of where my head is.
Nice.
Maybe in about a year.
Okay. Yeah, I've
And
seen
there's
some
no stress.
amazing.
No stress to move someplace quickly. So
Yeah,
that would help.
that's super helpful when you don't have that pressure where you have to get to that next step. Then, you know, it makes things a lot easier for you to really like think through and you know, do things, plan things accordingly. But I've seen some amazing barn dominiums, you know, like I'm always on like Instagram. You know, if you're on Instagram, I would search around, or on like Pinterest and stuff.
Instagram or Pinterest.
Yep. Yeah. There's a ton of awesome spaces. So, cool, man. Well, so I'll go over next steps with you. So here's kind of what you can expect. So once your wife goes through and completes the agreement, it's automatically going to notify our transaction coordination team that the agreement is complete, and that'll start the clock ticking and the ball rolling. So the next thing that'll happen, so it's Friday. So by Tuesday or Wednesday, you'll receive a phone call from our transaction coordination department. It'll probably be Carolina that reaches out to you. She'll review all the next steps. She'll probably have some additional questions for you that maybe we didn't get answered along the way, you know, just more details about the property. And then she'll schedule a time to get our photographer out there to take the necessary pictures of the property, you know, and then from there, we'll do, you know, some walkthroughs and stuff. And then we'll probably also have our agent that we use out there that markets all of our properties for us. She'll, you know, come out and connect with you guys and go over next steps as well. And then we'll just get the ball rolling. We'll be, you know, very communicative throughout the process, so you guys always know what's going on. And then yeah, we'll get this thing moved through the finish line and across the closing table and get you guys paid.
Okay. Sounds good. Is this your now, do you have a direct line? I need to call you.
What number is showing up? What's the last 4 digits?
0593.
Okay, no, let me give you the direct line in.
Just text it to me.
Okay, I'll do that.
And if I have any questions or concerns, I will give you a call.
Perfect. So I'm texting that to you now. And then if you don't get me, I'm on a lot of calls throughout the day
Right.
and meetings, but if you leave a voicemail, that'll go right to me, and then I can reach back out to you shortly. You can also always text in, and the whole team see any text messages that come in, they go through our system, so the whole team sees it. So, somebody will get back to you, relatively quickly, and then, get the next steps going, help you out, whatever questions you guys have and everything. So,
Okay. I
All right.
appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no worries. It's been a pleasure. And, I'm looking forward to getting this done and getting this over the finish line for you guys. And we'll go from there. So once doesn't look like your wife pulled it up yet. So whenever she does, once she gets that taken care of, like I said, it'll notify the team and they'll get the ball rolling from there.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Raphael. Have a great rest of your day.
Yep. Take care.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
All right. Let's go.
Contract
Yeah,
call.
brother.
I love those.
Yeah, that was legit, dude. That one's going to be potentially $150,000 deal.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
So I sent it
You're
over to
like
my because I was like, what? I was like, I'm not sure about these numbers. So I sent it over to her, and she's like, I sent her all the notes on the condition, and she's like, yeah, minimum list 967. We're under contract at 660. So I said, okay, let's say she's wrong. She's super great, but like sometimes she's a little aggressive. So let's say we can only list it for 900 times 0.9 minus 660.
this is a cash deal that turned into a novation or a novation from the get-go?
No, this is I call them pre-marketing novations because we just pitch a cash offer, but the terms and everything are pursuant to a novation, and the contract is a novation contract, right? So I do it all. Everything's the same on every single call. The only time I go to the extent of like, hey, we're not the buyer, but we can bring the buyer is when a cash number just absolutely doesn't work, and I need to kind of pull the rug out from under them to get them down on their number to make it make sense and get the deal across the finish line. So I'll go that route. But if I can negotiate with them at a number that makes sense and not have to jump through those hoops to pitch it that way, because there's some uncertainty in that, right? It's like, well, you're not the buyer. What do you mean, right? So that kind of can create a little bit of uncertainty, and there's ways to work around it. But if I can avoid having to go down that conversation, I'm just going to lock it up and freaking go.
Definitely. Yeah, it's cool because when I send out contracts, our contract is probably similar on the cash. It's just 2 pages. And I say, hey, this is the date. This is the purchase price. This section, it shows that we need at least access to the property. This section shows like close of escrow. You kind of went line by line. I kind of like just gloss over it just to get in the sign. So it's just different ways to do things. So
Yeah.
you went in super detail, which is pretty cool because I don't think I would go that far detail because I just want them to sign and I might butcher it. But with you going so far detailed, if I need to go that far detailed, like what if they ask a question on a certain item? I'm sure our contracts are probably similar, right, for cash wholesale.
Yeah.
Listening to you like go line by line and expressing what that means is pretty cool.
Yeah. And notice I go line by line, but I'm not reading verbatim what it says. I'm bullet pointing the actual clause, right? And the reason I want to do that is because if I read the whole thing, it's going to be super convoluted and it will raise questions. So I repackage, right? And this is something you can do when you're negotiating with sellers too, is when somebody has an objection, it's called rephrase and repackage, right? So if their objection is, I don't know, give me an objection that a seller has.
Well, you had one the other day was EMD.
EMD, right? Yeah. So EMD, if they're like, oh, well, you only have $100 EMD, that puts me at risk, right? I could address that risk, right? That perceived objection as a risk, or I could say, I got it. So what I'm hearing, Brandon, is that, what it really sounds like is that you're not necessarily concerned about EMD. You just want to make sure that the deal closes and you get paid, right? Because you're not worried about $1,000 or $100, right? And then you get their agreement. So I just rephrased and repackaged his objection to be an objection that I could easily overcome, right? And then it's like, okay, got it. I appreciate your honesty and let me know that you don't really care about the EMD. You just care that the deal closes. And I could tell you, Brandon, in my experience doing this, if it got this far through the underwriting process and they approved it and they actually approved an increase in the offer, they're super confident in closing this transaction. They're not going to set aside those funds in that account for this property unless they fully intend to close on this transaction. And I can tell you with certainty that any property that we've entered into contract, we're not backing out of because we do all of our underwriting on the front end. So, I can guarantee you, we're going to move forward to the closing table and get this done. Right. So I repackaged and rephrased that. It's the same thing with, some of the terms. Now the terms, I don't want to completely I'm not going to tell them one term is something totally different, but I'm going to phrase it in a way that's super, super simple. So for example, notice I really didn't say anything about the inspection period. So the close of escrow line, this is what the close of escrow line says. Seller and buyer will set closing to be as soon as practical, but no later than 60 business days, and business days is bolded, after buyer's representative has provided buyer current approved pictures of the property. So technically, it's 60 days from the time, 60 business days from the time that we get photos. If I don't get photos for 30 days, then I've got 60 business days from then, right? We got the holidays coming up. You're probably talking about 90 days plus the time between now and when I get photos, right? So that's a long escrow, but I'm not saying all that. I'm just, bullet pointing. With the inspection period says the buyer's 60 business day inspection period will begin once buyer's representative has provided buyer current approved pictures of the property. Buyer and buyer's sole and absolute discretion may, through written notice to seller, cancel this contract during the inspection period, obtain a return of the earnest money deposit, and no additional instructions, title, escrow, attorney are necessary. Buyer wants to make sure that the house is in the condition seller explained. I didn't say any of that. I'm like, we have our inspection period, just gives us the ability to, confirm condition based on what we discussed and everything. And then boom, move on to the next one. Right. But here's the reason why I do hit every bullet point. And there's a video on our YouTube channel you can look up. It's from TikTok to testimonial. And I believe I referenced this in that video, if they come back and say, oh, you didn't tell me this, you didn't tell me that. When you do novations, especially if it's not a full novation where you're telling them you're not the buyer and you're listing it and going through all these hoops, a lot of times it will come up, oh, you didn't tell me you guys were just listing. Yeah, exactly. But if I tell people, hey, all calls are monitored and recorded for quality and training purposes, right? And then when I go through and review the contract with them, I'm hey, we went through the contract. Remember, we told you about the pre-marketing clause where we pre-market the property to identify a buyer prior to us closing escrow. They can't say, nuh-uh. It's Mr. and Mrs. Jones, all calls are monitored and recorded for quality and training purposes. So I'm happy to pull the call recording for you if you'd like to hear that back. I understand you guys had a lot on your plate and you might not have understood it at the moment, but I can assure you that we went through everything in detail with you. And at the time, you guys were good with moving forward. We want to move forward pursuant to what we agreed upon and let our yes be our yes. All we're asking is that you move forward with what you agreed upon and let your yes be your yes. Can we just agree to move forward amicably based on what we agreed to originally? Is that fair? Mm-hmm. And get them over the finish line.
That makes sense. I got a question for you and Todd. Kathy was actually going to post this in RJ's group, but maybe you guys can answer it. But so in our contract, we had the $10 EMD, and it never really batted an eye. If they had motivation, they just fucking sign, right? Regardless of EMD, right? So we made it standard $10 EMD, kind of just like RJ, keep going on. But a lot of times, we just removed it from our contract, that EMD line from our contract. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know for sure if it would bring up any issues, but we sent it to a title company to open up escrow. And Kathy asked hey, we don't have EMD on our contract. Is that going to run into any issues? And she's like, no, it doesn't have to be on the contract at all. So with you guys, with so many deals you guys done, Does it have to be on the contract? Like, I just deleted it, me and Kathy. Is that bad, or what do you think, Todd?
In Michigan, the contract, you do not need an EMD. I don't have it on mine. What do they call it? The contract is the consideration, I guess, you know. But the only reason in other states, I'm not sure of the laws, you know, if it's legal or not. Maybe that's why RJ does that, because it might be different state by state.
Correct. And he's trying to just cast a bigger net, like deeper
Yeah,
water.
So I don't even. I tried it a couple of times on my first couple of deals with, and I just went back to I got a rock solid PA, you know, that I've been using for years. So, and you know, so I just went back to that because I'm doing all of Michigan, right? So
does yours have the $10 EMD on your contract? Like, well, you took it off because you're in Michigan, of course, but
I have no EMD. No EMD.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking,
as far as like,
go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so I've heard both sides of the table. I've heard some places say, yeah, EMD is not necessary. I've heard some people say it is necessary. It's not legally binding without it. Here's the thing. My agreement has EMD, but it doesn't state specifically at what point EMD is due. So I'm never, like, we almost never wire EMD unless a seller is asking the title company. And at that point, it's $100. I'll wire that EMD, because if the deal's not a deal and we have to back out at some point, we're going to back out within the inspection period and we're going to get that $100 back. But we generally don't wire the EMD. We'll identify a buyer and the buyer will wire EMD pursuant.
So you pass the buck. You pass it on to them.
Exactly. Yep. And so EMD gets wired by the buyer pursuant to whatever that contract is. And that's usually, like on a cash wholesale deal, it's going to be non-refundable EMD with no inspection period, unless it's a novation. And then that's a different, like you're
different animal.
Yeah, you're dealing pursuant to retail transactions. And so you have to have contingencies for the lenders and all that stuff so they can back out pretty much anytime. So
yeah, the EMD talk, like going into it, wholesaling was so crazy. Then, you know, within being in RJ's group, you know, when he says $10, that's it, right? And at first I was like, oh my God, like who's ever going to sign a contract for $10 EMD? But
it's all in your own head. Yeah, it's all in your own head. But here's the deal, right? The pushback that I would put on that, right? Because okay, $10, why not do $1? Why not do $1? Right? Like there's a reason, whatever that reason is, but like, why not do $1? Right? And my thought process is like, why create a point of friction that doesn't have to be a point of friction? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with doing a $10 or doing no EMD, right? Like, but you know, if you're gonna do EMD, like I'll never do more than $1,000.
But that's only on a deal, you know, that's good and it's going to close, and you have, it's more risk to reward.
Even if I'm not 100% sure that it's going to close, because again, I'm going to cancel within the inspection period if I find out that I can't close. So I'll get my EMD back.
So there's no risk.
So there's no risk, right? And you heard me on that call yesterday when the guy was pushing about EMD. He's like, "Oh, why can't you come up? You know, $5,000 or $1,000." I was like, first off, we're never going to come to $5,000. I might be able to get him stretched to $1,000, but here's the deal: that still doesn't give you the assurance that you're looking for, because I can guarantee you they've been in this business long enough to know that if there's even a hint of the property not being able to do what we need to do, they're going to cancel before the inspection period is up. So we would ride it out to the inspection period, cancel, we'd get our EMD back, and you'd still be in the same concerned boat that you're in. So that doesn't solve your problem. The problem you're trying to solve is making sure the deal closes. The way we get the deal closed is we enter into an agreement today, we move forward fast and get the job done at the numbers we discussed, because we underwrote it at those numbers for a reason. That's how
and like you hit on yesterday, then RJ always hits on too, like EMD is just a magical number that no one will ever get. Like you'll never see my EMD. I'll die before that happens, right?
Exactly.
And I might explain it all. That's a good way to explain it, Chris. What I tell people too is I'm doing 10 plus deals at a time. And if I do $5,000 EMD, I got 50 grand or more out there just sitting there that I can't use, and I need to use my money all the time.
Well, not only that, so I told him that. I told him we do 50 deals a month, right? So that's $250,000 over a month. And the way I position it, I was like, we don't use our own money because it would be an unwise business financial decision to use our own money, because that means it's not deployed making us money. And so what that means is that EMD is being borrowed from financial investors who want to see a return. So if I'm putting out $250,000 a month just for EMD at 10% interest, that's 25 grand a year per month of EMD that's out. That would be wildly irresponsible, and my number would be wildly lower on an offer for your house. I'm guessing you don't want a lower number, right? Well, no, definitely not. I want a higher number, actually. Like, okay, well, this is how we do it. So moving on, closing timeline is going to be, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
But it's all a smoke screen. It's something, a lot of times it's something that somebody told them they need to.
Exactly. An agent, usually it's a real estate agent they know of or someone.
Yep, exactly.
And what I've done in tech sales, they teach you this in tech sales, like you might have an objection, or Chris and Todd, and it's my job to just kind of brush over it. Like Todd might say, "Oh, how'd you get my number? I paid 5 cents for it. Let's keep moving on." Like you just brush. It's called is it RBF or something, like whatever. I forgot the terms, but when I get objections about EMD, my goal in my head is to get the fuck off of this conversation as fast as possible. So I do a little bit different. I'm say, that's our standard, like $10 EMD. That's my business. That's take it or leave it. Like I'm so hard in the sand. It might lead to not getting the deal, but I just go off the like, hey, this is how I run my business. I do $10 EMD. You're never going to get that money anyway. So why would I give you more? Like, do you want to sell the house or not? Like, I just steamroll over it. But what were you going to say, Todd?
No. I was agreeing with you. Yeah. A lot of times they just want, no, that's a good way of doing it also. And if they still have an issue, then you could get into it a little bit deeper,
Yeah, the nitty gritty. Because Chris has that. No, well, I have a little bit after listening to Chris's calls yesterday than today to have that conversation more in depth. But with me not having that conversation or that knowledge of how to have that conversation, that's why I kind of just pushed through it. But with a little bit of knowledge from Chris shared yesterday, it doesn't make sense. Like, hey, if I give you $1,000 EMD, but I'm also looking at 30 other deals nationwide, like I just can't do it, Mr. Seller. Like it's $10 EMD. I'm going to buy your house. We're going to close on this date. You're going to get your money. And I kind of just pushed through it. Yeah. But knowing from that other call with you, Chris, like that was pretty cool because it got me thinking like it all adds up, compound EMD.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Well, and the other thing too, right? Always relate it back to why it benefits them, right? Feature, advantage, benefit. The feature is a low EMD. The advantage is it saves us money. The benefit for you is the fact that because we are lean as a company, we don't have exorbitant costs. It gives us the ability to offer you more than what anybody else is going to be able to offer you, which is why when I offered this to you a week and a half ago, you're still calling me back and you're not calling some other bozo back.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. It's all the confidence, the way you speak it, and exactly. You show confidence to they know you mean business for sure.
Yeah, 1,000%, man. And that's why, and it's with anything, right? Like if it's in your head, then it's going to, like if you're in your head about it, kind of like you were like, oh, $10 EMD, how am I going to do that? I've talked to other investors who are like, you do a 60-day close of escrow? What? 60 business days?
You do it because confidence.
How do you do that? What? And a 60-day inspection period? That's absolutely crazy. How do you get people to sign that? You know what I mean? Like, I can't get people to sign a 15-day close of escrow. I'm like,
It's just a confidence, huh?
yep, that's all it is. It has to be you. It's assume the sale, right? Just assume the sale is what it is. This is how we do it.
Then when I hear Todd on the phone, he's just so cool and calm. And if I'm a seller of a house, I trust Todd. Todd's not trying to sell me something. You could just hear it in his voice and his demeanor, and that's why I learned a lot from Todd on his calls, because I have a lot of energy. I think me and Chris are the same. Like, we love to talk, we love to share our knowledge, but sometimes, like Todd just presents himself as an expert with the lack of talking too. So there's different strategies, and we were going over with I forgot his name. I said, hey, you're going too fast on the call, and you came in like,
Corey.
hey, I take, and you're like, hey, I take 4 seconds before I talk. I'm like, I'm gonna do that. I told Kathy, I'm like, that's a good idea, Todd. I told Kathy.
I was never like that. I would talk right after, and I'm getting way more better success by they just keep talking. I would always want to talk, and it would be, instead of, how they say you should be talking 20% of the time. And the way I used to do it, I would talk 50% of the time, but not anymore,
Yeah. The seller should always be talking more than you. And,
yeah.
And then the other thing too, like if you guys, I'm sure you guys have probably read it, but if you haven't, definitely read Never Split the Difference. The audiobook is amazing, but just the pauses. I'll flip my boom mic up too. Like if I think there's a propensity for me to like talk and interject and stuff, I'll flip my boom mic up so it automatically mutes me, because like there's times where I'll want to talk and I know
bite your tongue.
I gotta let it sit and bite my tongue, especially when, and this is, I think, like newer sales reps too, they struggle a lot where they'll make the offer, they'll shut up because everybody tells them, like, when you make the offer, shut up, they'll shut up. And then the moment the seller like says anything, they're like, oh, no way. They like, now it's like,
pounce on it.
And it's like, just let it sit, let it breathe, let it marinate, because the stench of the low offer will go away. It'll evaporate, and sometimes I've caught myself where I wanted to chime in and I'm like, congratulations, they approved the offer, $137,298. And they're like, no way. And I'm just like, and then they start there's no way I can do that. I mean, what? But then they'll start giving you info and they'll start like reducing
the silence.
They'll talk to themselves. Like they think they're talking to themselves, but you're right there the whole time. And then they're like ratcheting down their number.
I did this really well, or I didn't know I did it really well until I listened to the call, and RJ did a review of me on his YouTube channel, and I was listening to the call where I got him down from 120 down to 40. He wanted to come up to 45. I didn't say yes or no. I just said, it's going to cost a lot of money. I was nice and slow. Then he's like, yeah, man, you're right. Fuck. Yeah, she'll take the 4. Like, I don't like, I just didn't talk. I set my, not anchor, but I set my number based on the profit calculator where I need to be in a range to make this deal move for the seller, regardless of my wholesale fee. Right. And I just sit back, like RJ says, you just sit back in the pocket. You just wait. And you could hear him. You could hear him think and process, like, I don't know if she'll go with that. Like, could we do 45? And I didn't say anything. I kind of just let it simmer. And he's like, oh, you're right. Let's do 40. Then he fucking called me back the next day and said, we're not selling the house. And he changed his mind. But that's after the call. Like, obviously I did everything perfect on the call. He says he's not for sure if it's going to be a closed contract, but what I did on the call was perfect. Did I get the contract? No, but I did my job on that call.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And people oftentimes, I think, they're like, well, it didn't work this time, right? It's not about working this one time. It's about, you look at like baseball, for example, right? To be a Hall of Fame baseball player, you know what you have to do? You have to shit the bed 70% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
If you bat 300, which is 30%, that's 30% efficacy. If you can be good 30% of the time, you are a Hall of Fame baseball player in no uncertain terms, right?
You gotta show up.
But we focus so much on like the negative and, you know, all the times it went wrong. But like, yeah, but we get paid the big money because of the times that it went wrong. Because the times that it went wrong, the other times when it went right, we made $150,000 on an Ovation deal.
And sometimes those are like easy, right? You're like, I can't, like RJ says, sometimes he feels bad making these big rips because he makes so much money and it was so easy. But then you also think about right? So then you don't think about
That's
the hard calls. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You only see the success. They don't see the grind like we see every day, like on these calls. Like yesterday, I was just calling dispo buyers. I had no luck. It was a failure yesterday, but people don't see that. They just see the commission checks. They don't see how long it takes, like the sales cycle. That's why you always have to fill your pipeline.
It's like icebergs, man. You only see the tip of the iceberg. You don't see what's underneath.
Yeah.
But dude, one thing you should implement, like when you're negotiating and people are like trying to negotiate your number up. So you do the sigh, you're like, how do you expect me to do that, John? Because now they like anybody can say anything, and you could do this literally. You could try this with anything in life. Try it when you're out and somebody's talking to you about something, right? Like, you know, if it's politics, they're like, "Oh, we should give a $25,000 credit, you know, down payment assistance to home buyers." How do you expect us to do that?
Who's paying
Now
for it?
they're forced to justify their position, and most people have not logically deduced their position to be able to fully justify it. And the moment they say, I don't know either. You're a smart guy. I don't know either. I don't know how you expect us to come all the way up to that number. I might be able to get them to move a couple inches, but what you're asking for is miles. How much closer to the number do you think you could get?
If because we have different strategies, of course. My strategy is I'm the decision maker. So if I'm the decision maker on the phone, but I want to take that strategy, like you're saying, how do I word it? If you know, because we have different styles, right?
Yeah, I mean, so in that scenario, if you're going to be the decision maker, that's okay. Here's why I don't like being the decision maker, right? I don't like being the decision maker because my style is rapport based, right?
Correct.
I'm building a connection. I'm making a friend, and it's a two-way street, right? Like your friends are more willing to do things for you that a stranger might not do, but you're also willing to do things for people, for your friends that a stranger might not do, right? So it becomes easier for you to give away things and come up too much, right? So that's the reason why I don't like being the decision maker. But with that being said, if you are the decision maker, you can legitimately still ask that question and then just use logic and reason, right? Like, you know, Sharon, how do you expect me to come all the way up to $50,000? You know, let me explain. Do you mind if I share with you how we arrive at our numbers?
Like the cost, everything, right?
Right. And they'll say, well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, please do. Like, okay, well, when we sell this, when it's fully renovated, we're going to sell it for $150,000. Now, when I do that, I'm going to have to pay a licensed agent to list it. I'm going to have to pay an agent who's going to represent the buyer. I'm going to have to pay closing costs, concessions, buyer requests for repairs, home warranties. And right now, because interest rates are between 6 and 7%, every single buyer is asking us for an interest rate buy down, which is $3,000 to $5,000. So that's 10% off the top. So now I'm at $135,000. In order for me to get the property up to that value, I'm going to have to put $60,000 worth of work into the property, right? And so now we're at $75,000. I haven't made a dime yet, Sharon. Now, in addition to that, with my holding costs, because as much as we buy cash, we have private investors. Many of them are, and here's where I plant the seed for them to become a private money lender. We have investors. Many of them are friends and family. But a lot of our investors are previous sellers who didn't know what to do with the equity that they pulled out when they sold, and they invested it into our business. They're looking for a return on a deal like this. It's probably going to cost me about $15,000. in financing costs over the time that it takes me to renovate the property and put it back on the market. So now I'm down to $60,000. And again, I haven't made a dime on the property. And you want me to come all the way up to $50,000, which barely leaves $10,000 for us in our pocket. God forbid one thing goes wrong, which we've been doing this long enough to know that something almost always goes wrong on a project. But God forbid one thing goes wrong and that $10,000 just evaporates like the freaking, like your sweat on a hot day outside.
Mm-hmm.
So how
sellers
do you need to come up to that number?
Because sellers think, you hear it all the time, no matter who you listen to, no matter what style you hear, as far as closing style, you always hear the seller say, you know, like, I wanted to get this, but I'll sell for this. So like, there should be $100K worth of profit for you. No,
Yeah.
No, Mr. Seller. So for us, you know, how we beat them up on price or anything, we go to the profit calculator, say, hey, you know, if I fix up this property, it's going to worth 500 grand. I got closing costs. I got holding costs. I got renovation of this cost. I make no money by the time it's all said and done. So I'm in the business of making money. Yes, I need to give you a good number so you feel happy and you're good with the sale, but I need to make money on this. So I need to be lower.
Yep, exactly. And what I'll do when I go through that whole mathematical equation with them too, and I get them to come down there, like if you know that 90 to 95% of the time a problem comes up and it almost always eats into the leftover profit, and it could be anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 of a problem. If you were looking at a deal where best case scenario, you might make $5,000 to $10,000 if things don't go wrong. Would you be willing to risk your child's college fund for that?
Right. That's a good point.
What are you willing to put on the line?
Mm-hmm.
And if you are, why don't you fix it yourself?
Right. Just kind of like put it back in their court, huh?
Yeah, and then you're subtly circling back to their motivation. Why don't you do it yourself? Oh, well, because I don't have the money.
Or I'm retired or like disabled, huh?
Yep. Or, I don't have this, I don't have that. I'm not in a position I don't know how to do that. Well, exactly. And that's why you're coming up with the numbers that you're coming up with, because you don't understand how to do this. This is our business. This is what we do day in, day out. We know the numbers to the penny. We know what we can do and what we can't do. And here's the deal. We got into this business to help people, right? And if I do the deal that you want me to do, and I do that over and over and over again, we're going to be out of business and we're not going to be able to help people. Mm-hmm. And that's our goal. We're here to help you sell your house.
You're educating the seller.
1,000%, right? It goes back to, they don't know anything. They're not skilled. They're not seasoned. Most of them have never sold a house in their life. They might sell one, maybe two houses ever if they're lucky, right? And we need to educate them on the process. And the more transparent we are, the more effective we can be in that, so yeah. But I digress. I want to make some calls.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to call this lady. It's a 14-day follow-up for a manufactured home retail price.
Where at?
Castleville, Texas.
Oh, got it. Okay. Nice.
Hello, Irlanda. This is Brandon Clark. I was just calling about your property. I don't think we worked on a deal a few weeks ago, so I just wanted to see if you ended up selling it or you still have it available for sale, and hopefully we could run some numbers to see if we could help you out. Give me a call back.
Okay, let's see here.
I said this the other day too, like in wholesaling, like if you could break it down into 10 steps, right? At first it was so hard to look at a deal and send a contract. Now that's easy. It used to be hard to close a deal on the phone. Now that's easy. It used to be hard to comp on the phone. Now that's easy. Now the problems I'm running into is contract calls. So I need to make sure my calls are better to get them to sign on the phone, right? But once you master each step, like you create the whole, like the puzzle is almost done, right? You just got to master each step.
And you don't even have to master each step, right? You just need to get good at what you're good at and then outsource the rest, right? Like, like, sure, I could get good at all the TC stuff, but like, that's not my highest and best use. If I'm not locking up sellers, like, then I'm not operating at my highest and best,
Yeah, like my specialty, I think I'm good at talking to people. My closing skills are getting better. Kathy handles all the dispo. So, I do my job. I try to get the deal. Then she does her job because she's better at it to do the dispo. So
Yeah.
we're not trying to split the load and do something half-assed on both sides. We're trying to just do what we're made to do, right?
Exactly. All right, I'm going to call this lady.
Sweet.
Hello.
Hello, Lynn. It's Chris.
I'm sorry.
Lynn, it's Chris. We spoke yesterday. You told me to give you a call anytime today.
Oh, yeah. Hi.
Hi. Did I catch you at a bad time?
Yeah, I'll tell you. I'm leaving on. There's a terrible echo. I'm leaving on Sunday and won't be back until the end of September. And I'm just running around. If you can call me after that.
After September?
Yes, end of September.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I can certainly do that. I'll send you a text once we get off the call here. But I know you had mentioned it was a different property that you were interested in possibly selling. But I don't think we had the address. It was like a townhouse over by Grossmont that you were considering selling. But I don't have the address and just wanted to update.
I can give it to you right now.
Okay, yeah, that'd be perfect. Awesome. So I'll update the system and then follow up. Is that tenant occupied or what's the situation?
Yes.
Oh, it is tenant occupied. Okay. When are they month to month or?
They're month to month, but I'm going to need them to be able to stay for the next 8 months due to a serious illness.
Oh, got it. They need to stay for 8 months.
Yeah, but I could sell it to someone if they will accept the continuation of the tenant.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, we can certainly discuss that. Obviously with California, they're, taking existing tenants in place presents a level of challenges and risk, as you can imagine with the tenant laws here in California. But it's certainly not out of the question. It's just a matter of making sure that everything makes sense,
Okay. They're friends of mine. It's very informal.
Got it. Okay. What, not to pry. I know you said it's like some health issues. I mean, are they going to be okay or?
Yeah, but they need some time to go through chemo and surgery and all that.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that. All right.
Thank you. They're lovely people.
Okay. Well,
So-
I'll be keeping them in my prayers.
Oh, thank you.
And hopefully everything works out for them. But yeah, I'll put it in the calendar here to circle back with you towards the end of, you said towards the end of September or in the beginning of October?
How about like after the 1st of October?
After the 1st. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. We can circle back then and stay in touch. And if anything changes in the meantime, I'll shoot you a text so you have my contact info. Feel free to reach out anytime. We're local here in San Diego. So yeah, we can help out any way we can. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
No worries. Thank you, Lynn. You have a great rest of your day and have safe travels.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. God bless. Bye-bye.